offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com.
You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Thursday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We'll talk some football, a lot of football on the docket. Certainly, we will hang out with Matt Lane coming up at 11 o'clock from KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com. The KC Laboratory Podcast. We'll talk with him at 11 o'clock about this Chiefs team getting ready for the Bears. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. The press conferences today around 11:45, 11:50 or so. Steve Spagnuolo, Dave Tobe, Matt Nagy, and whichever players will be at the podium as well today. So we'll hear from the Chiefs about 11:45, react to what we hear from those individuals and players. And then later on today, play a little sports or leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern, where we give away $25 in a little game we like to call Sports or Leisure. And Todd Lebo today will be out at Johnny's Tavern in North Lawrence from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock today. So everyone who stops in there will be registered to win a great grand prize, 2 tickets to see your hometown team play on Sunday, 325 out in a little home game. All you got to do is show up to Johnny's Tavern, Kansas City's premier sports bar. This one, 401 North 2nd in Lawrence. And, certainly all the Johnny's Taverns locations, 10 locations, Lawrence, Topeka, and around here as well. And
there are lots of Johnny's locations. Unfortunately, only one Lebo. That's the only limitation.
That is true. I've always wondered if there was one person we could clone at the station, who would it be? And I think the answer is Lebo.
Well, it's Drake, but Lebo could fight for second. I mean, the correct answer is Drake.
Yep,
I mean,
right.
That's not offensive to anyone else here.
No, it was just in my mind we were talking about Lebo, so I really didn't, I said I often think about that, in which what I meant was I have never thought about it before. And if I actually sat back and thought about it, there is an obvious number one. It's Drake. And then there's a battle for a distant second. You're right about that.
Do you think you and me are the last two? Like, we're fighting for the last spot? Because we could definitely use more Dylans.
Right.
I think we might be in last. Drake is definitely first. Lebo might be second.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I
it's
understand my place. I understand.
They only made one of me anyway. Good luck, everybody.
That's right. There's only one of you out there. All right. So love you, because there's nobody like you in the world,
and nobody else who will.
And nobody like Todd Lebo, who will be at the North Lawrence location, Johnny's, today from 4 to 6 p.m., where you can go and hang out with Todd Lebo, get some life lessons from him, eat some great food, and sign up to win some cool prizes. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810, text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. I do want to get into the matchup coming up this weekend, not to where we're going to discuss and break down matchups and what the keys to the game are. Like, the keys to the game for the Chiefs are just showing up, be on time, 3:25, have your pads and everything on, and jersey and things like that, and warm up so you don't get injured. Don't get injured just from not warming up. Make sure you're ready to go to play a game. That's really it. That's the biggest key for me, for the Chiefs, is just simply showing up. The biggest key for the Bears is to try to figure out a way to keep the Chiefs from showing up. That's really the breakdown this weekend. But I actually want to talk about it from the standpoint of the conversation around the Bears, what's been going on this week, and my view that it's actually wrong, what the consensus view on that is. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But start with the Chiefs. Start with the offensive line. And one of the things we were going to talk about yesterday, and a number of things we were going to talk about yesterday that were just so rudely interrupted by the Royals writing 1,000 words to say we're not ready to decide on a site yet.
They had to get ahead of their deadline.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Was the offensive line, and if there are concerns moving forward. Not, hey, what are the concerns? Because what are the concerns is a loaded question, because it's assuming that there are definitely concerns there. So I think the first part of it is if there are any concerns, or not even just taking the word what. What are your concerns, or are there concerns for this Chiefs offensive line specifically? We can talk about wide receivers and other things, but to me, I want to separate those things and just simply talk about what has been a conversation now for about 6 days, because, 6 days, because, a couple weeks ago, last Thursday, so, I guess it's 13 days, sorry.
Yeah, I guess we're coming up on 2 weeks of this.
God, I can't believe it's...
Oof.
Yeah, it's, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm like, well, football season starts. I'm going to wake up, and it's going to be mid-February.
Yeah.
And that's just simply how it goes every year. But so 13 days we've been talking about this, because tomorrow will be 2 weeks since we had the discussion around, Juwan Taylor, and really it'll be 2 weeks tonight. But still, it's been 13 days. It was a conversation all last week leading into the game against the Jags, and then it became a conversation because of the penalties that Juwan Taylor had, and because of Andy Reid's commentary about the officials, and he's got to adjust. And I think that is Andy Reid saying to Juwan Taylor, look, man, it may suck, but this is reality you're living in. You can sulk and complain and blame the refs and say that you're being picked on. You can do that all you want. Reality is, when we play a game on Sunday, you're going to be under a spotlight. It's on you to fix it. We can help you. We can coach you. But you have to fix it. I am not blaming the officials. I'm not blaming NBC. and Tirico and Collinsworth. I'm saying, what do we do now? Because the people that want to talk about if there's a spotlight on Juwan Taylor, or if they're picking on Juwan Taylor, or if this is just about it being Thursday Night Football and Tirico and Collinsworth only, highlighting that throughout the game, they can talk about that all they want. Chiefs have to go play a football game. And Juwan Taylor needs to be the right tackle for minimum the next 3 years for the Chiefs because of the practical guarantees, and you're not cutting him after 2 years because of the guaranteed money and the dead cap and all of that stuff. He's got to be a tackle for this team for 3 years. He's making too much money to be a backup. And he's a good tackle. He's good in pass protection. He has to clean up the penalties. The question of if there are concerns, I would say, one, there are early concerns for me. Early concerns doesn't mean it's a definite, okay, I'm worried about this moving forward. This weekend and next weekend, the next 2 weeks, to me, will be a good indication of what it will be like moving forward. I'm going to give him a couple of weeks because he was penalized on Sunday. Maybe he didn't know what it would be. He was penalized on Sunday. Now he knows. He was taken out of the game because he got in his head. So I don't think he really expected it to be the way that it was, to where he would then have to try to adjust mentally maybe, and he's thinking more, and the Chiefs had to give him a mental break. So this weekend against the Bears. Next weekend against the Jets. I think it's the Jets, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Sure.
1 week at a time.
Yeah, sure.
Night games.
I don't even.
Football.
I'm like the players. I don't even look at the schedule down there. I just look 1 week at a time. So
I
this week
had it circled in red marker for Aaron Rodgers, and then I whited out around that circle. So now it's just another game, but it is at the Jets.
It's the Mormon Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes. It's about time they matched up against
a man on a mission.
Been waiting for that. But this week and next week against the Jets, I'll give him a couple of weeks to sort of adjust and get used to what's going on. He's been doing this for 4 years in his career.
Right.
So it's not going to happen overnight. But the fact that Andy Reid came out and said, hey, same officiating crew we had in training camp, said that on Monday, that, he's telling Juwan Taylor, this is your responsibility. There's no issues with the refs. This is how they're calling it. Now, the issues outside of the practice facility would be, hey, man, just let the league know what the rules are and then enforce the rules.
Right.
Because one tackle played under a certain set of rules on Sunday, and other tackles played under the old set of rules, like Lane Johnson on Thursday night, like other tackles that we've talked about doing some of the same things. Juwan Taylor was the one that was penalized. So that can be outside of the facility. But obviously for Andy Reid, it's, Juwan, it's on you. It's on your plate, man. Figure it out. Go do it. So is there a concern for you, first of all? And what would those concerns be? His adjustment? Just being a penalized player anyway? Donovan Smith, we can throw him into the mix here as well, who, I thought, again, was fine except for the holding penalty. He's gotten beat inside a couple of times and has a holding penalty in each game. But I thought he played fine overall. So are there concerns at all for you, Josh, with this group, mainly the tackles that were a question coming into the season because we didn't know what Donovan Smith would look like and Juwan Taylor was going to move over to the left side and then back to the right side?
I know you said you want to separate it from the receiver concerns. I'm not going to. I'm not going to make our mashed potatoes and carrots touch.
That's okay. You can if you want to. You can mix it all together.
I am a big food mixer in general.
I'm not.
Oh, really? You know what? I don't know what this means, but that makes sense to me.
I don't know why. I don't want the food to touch.
Why do you seem like not a food toucher? I don't know.
I have some OCD issues, but that's fine.
I'm a big food toucher. I'll touch any food, anytime, anywhere. The reason I even think about the receivers is as a calibration, I'm more big picture worried about the receiving core than I am the offensive line. That's just my little calibration big picture. Zoomed in on those guys, I think the Juwan Taylor part is fascinating for the reasons that you've laid out. Now, I still, and maybe I need to go listen to it again, I still heard Andy Reid when he mentioned the same refereeing crew that was at training camp. That to me felt like him being like, and when they were in training camp, they didn't seem to say a lot of bleep about it. Like maybe the NFL was recalibrating themselves, moving the goalposts a little bit. But as is always the case, and certainly always publicly from Andy Reid, you got to put the responsibility on the person who can change it. And so I think that what's absolutely true from Andy Reid, and I think Juwan Taylor knows this, all of this across the board, the responsibility to adjust is on Juwan Taylor. I think the NFL will have seen, I'm hoping this is the case, but I really do think this is how it's going to go. I think week 2, maybe week 2 and 3, so I'm not going to completely panic if it goes poorly again against Chicago. But I think week 2 is going to be the peak of the microscope on this one particular issue. Because after this week, there'll be some other one particular issue. Like how the NFL had leaked out that they were investigating the NFLPA, telling running backs or having told running backs to fake injuries to work on their contract negotiations. And then like 2 hours later, Nick Chubb's knee is turned to dust on national television. You know, that's not a great time for the NFL to get that message out there anymore. It's a very different example, but there will be some egregious pass interference penalty. There will be some egregious non-call holding. There will be things that grab the attention, but as we've talked about time and time again, the right tackle of the Kansas City Chiefs demands more attention even than the playoff-playing right tackle of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that is the one extra factor here that has me just a little worried that it won't be the way the NFL always handles their points of emphasis. Because Juwan Taylor's going to be on national TV a lot, and that narrative got set in week 1. Other fan bases aren't going to let it go, even if refs start backing off a little bit, if they get a little less aggressive on those calls, if they start letting their eyes drift to any of the other 21 players on the team pre-snap. But I do think the responsibility to adjust lands on Juwan Taylor, and if he and Andy Heck can't figure it out, then he was never going to figure it out. I think he'll be okay.
Next Sunday, I'll be interested in hearing what the commentary is going to be with Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football. My guess will be they'll have other tackles and clips that they could talk around. I would be shocked if in the time in almost 2 weeks where they talked about Juwan Taylor and what was happening on that Thursday night game to now or to next Sunday, that they wouldn't have heard or seen the tweets and videos and other offensive linemen coming out and saying that's not a false start, seeing the slow motion of as soon as Creed Humphrey starts to twitch is when Juwan Taylor is dropping but people think the snap is like when the ball gets to the ass of the center.
Right. Yeah, hey guys, when should the snap count start?
So Creed Humphrey's moving the ball back, and it's back between his legs, and then the other offensive linemen are moving, and Juwan Taylor already has a full step back because the snap count is when the ball starts to move. And when the ball starts to move is really Creed Humphrey starts to move his shoulders, and then the ball moves. It's a little too fine sometimes for Juwan Taylor because I think even the slow-mo, you could see him moving a little bit before. But that's slowing it down to where it's like slow motion on slow motion. But he still has to adjust. That's how they're going to call it. Okay, so adjust. But I would guess that on Sunday Night Football when they play against the Jets, that they will probably have a bigger conversation, not just about Juwan Taylor, but it could be about Lane Johnson. It could be about other tackles, the illegal formation, the things like that. Instead of just that night, they seemed to be so caught off guard that this was going on and could not believe what they were watching when one of the most recent games to play was that Chargers game in the wild card. And I don't know what channel that was on, but boy, that would be amazing if it was Tirico and Collinsworth that did the game that night. I know it was a night game.
It feels like a CBS game to me. I don't know why.
It was a Saturday night game. It was a night game on the Saturday part of it because we got to have fun at their expense on Sunday. And then, but that would be interesting. But yeah, it's on Juwan Taylor. And Andy Reid talked about, this is not us. We're not a team that gets penalized. We're not a team that commits a lot of penalties. I disagree.
Last year they were. I found the numbers about middle of the pack in the NFL.
They were actually the best they've been with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback last year.
That also makes sense, actually.
They were 7th in the NFL in amount of penalties, offense only.
Oh, okay. I didn't check that. So
yeah, I don't care about
middle
the
of the pack, offense, defense combined, but that's a great differentiation.
I don't care about the defense. I care about the offense because that's
7th on offensive penalties.
They were 7th in the fewest.
Oh, okay.
So 7th best. Okay. So working from fewest to most, being fewest number one.
That really was their best season by a decent amount.
They were 7th. In 2021, they were 25th.
Chargers Jags was on NBC.
Shut up.
Now I got to go try to find the crew and everything just to make 1,000% sure.
It's got to be Tirico.
But it was 7:15, January 14th on NBC, according to the ESPN box score that has all that information.
Oh, I wish I would have seen that before.
Oh man, I'm gonna look into it.
Oh, I mean, Dylan thinks it might be Dungy that was on there, but we'll find out. Regardless, last year they were 7th. 2021, they were 25th. 2020, they were 29th. 2019, they were 32nd. So it's gone from...
They were worst in 2019.
No, the worst in 2018.
2018.
2018, they were 32nd. 2019...
That's even wilder.
They were...
That's crazy. Jason's coming through his legal pad.
Yes, I gotta look through the legal pad again. 2019, they were 15th. Sorry. I wrote 15th, but I wrote it small and it looked like first.
They were the most penalized offense in football
in 2018.
The year that their offense was a fire-breathing dragon.
Yep. 2018, they were 32nd, but it didn't matter because they could overcome those. They were facing single high.
Yeah.
They were torching defenses that didn't know how to. They were Lawrence Taylor. Offense is figuring out, how do we block Lawrence Taylor? We've never seen this before. Do we put like a tight end on him? How are we going to know? What do we do? Do we just leave one guy out there? Okay, the left tackle, but the left tackle isn't what the left tackle is today.
Joe Gibbs literally had to create the H-back for Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Like, that's how unstoppable Lawrence Taylor was.
It's one of the reasons why I think Derek Thomas is a little underrated, because Derek Thomas came after Lawrence Taylor, and they already had ideas as to how to block a guy who had that speed and that ability.
That's a great take. I like that.
Regardless, just like if LeBron came first, there would never be a debate as to who's better, LeBron or Jordan. But that's besides the point.
I like that take, too.
Let's get into one thing I don't think anybody has talked about. I don't understand, why have we not talked about Jordan and LeBron? It seems like a great conversation to have, to really talk about generations and eras and things like that. Why don't we talk about that enough? In fact, let's discuss that. Let's get into it.
913-381-1010. I think Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Pete Rose should all be in the Hall of Fame.
Put them in. Put them in. So should Jamal Charles, damn it.
That's just true.
But in 2018, they were 32nd. In 2019, they were 15th. 2020, they were 29th. 2021, they were 25th. And last year, they were 7th. So the last 3 years, they've gone from 29 to 25 to 7th. I don't think they're going to be 7th this year because they have tackles who are the most penalized tackles in football the last 4 years combined. So Jawan Taylor's rookie year to last year, adding in Donovan Smith in those 4 years, you have the 2 most penalized tackles in football over that time frame. That's not going to change, especially with being a spotlight on Jawan Taylor. So I don't see that improving. Yeah. The question is going to be, they've been able to overcome those in the past. Last year, their offense was awesome. They were having to have more methodical, longer drives, but they were only 7th in the NFL in penalties. This year, if they go back to being 25th, 29th, 32nd, can they finish near the top? Or not near the top, they'll finish near the top at minimum, but can they finish first or second in offense and offensive DVOA and things like that if they're being penalized and they don't have the firepower they used to have? That's the concern for me. So the question of, are there concerns? Yes, that's the concern. Is through 2 weeks, we haven't seen the offense be able to overcome the penalties that we saw in years past, even last year. But last year, they didn't have those penalties. So Andy Reid is right when he says we're not a team that has these penalties. Yes, last year. Yes, in year 5 of Patrick Mahomes as a starting quarterback, you did not have those issues. Year 1, 2, 3, 4, you did. You had those issues. What's more likely? Last year being the outlier, continuing, or last year being the start of a trend that all of a sudden this offense is going to be one of the least penalized teams in the NFL?
I think it makes sense logically to say that the more a team plays together, the less penalized they would be, especially thinking about like the offensive line, right? Because when you miscommunicate, you realize you're getting beat to the inside, now you're holding that guy, right? Like that's just a relatively easy logical chain to follow. When you have the same quarterback who's been under center, or more often behind center, I guess, for 5 years, where everyone is used to his cadence and he has the chemistry with his pass catchers and all of that. But this year's also different in that way because it is 2 new tackles. It is a very new, still very fresh group of pass catchers. There are changes that might actually have you need to reassess what your normal is. So it kind of checks out that maybe that unit had gelled enough last year to feel a little more solid across the front five in particular. Obviously, they did a lot differently without Tyreek Hill in terms of the pass catchers, but it's interesting. I would tend to buy that the most recent year would be the most predictive.
Mm-hmm.
But changing your two starting tackles for a couple of guys that have very specific penalty problems is exactly the type of thing that would make me no longer believe in that.
And we'll see. We'll watch it this weekend, and we'll watch it next weekend, and we'll watch it every single game moving forward. Obviously, I don't think we're going to skip a week to watch it. I'm not even going to watch it this weekend. I don't even care.
I might just put a little piece of duct tape over the right tackle spot, just like one week, just so I don't have to think about it.
It's odd because it would move around on the TV.
Yeah,
I don't think you can do that. Do we
I don't
have
even
the
know if I can
technology
reach.
to just blur out one spot?
I'll do like the Jeff Schwartz Twitter breakdown thing where I'll just use a spoon, but I'll just try to cover Jawan Taylor on the screen so I can't see him. That might work. And also it might not.
It's weird because it's the exact opposite with some officials now moving forward. It's going to be everything else is blurred out
That's
but
right.
Jawan Taylor.
Maybe I'll do the magnifying glass so I can watch it like the refs do.
It's weird. Like, shouldn't they look at the ball? Or if you're an official and you're down the line of scrimmage, should you be looking at the offensive lineman to see if they move, and then as they move, look and see the ball moving? Or can you time it up at the same time? Because delay of games, they look at the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And when the clock hits 0, then they look at the ball. Even though there's plenty of delay of games that are not called.
Yes.
They see the 0, then they look down, and if the ball is being snapped within a reasonable time, they don't call delay a game. I'm not saying there should be a reasonable time between a guy moving and the ball being snapped, but if I see a guy moving and I look at the ball and then the ball's being snapped, we'll see. It's worked for the Chiefs. So, I don't know if it was working against the Chiefs, might have a different opinion, but it was working against the Chiefs in the divisional round, and the officials were not the story. It was Patrick Mahomes' ankle.
And to Dylan's unbelievable credit, the Sunday game, Ravens-Bengals, was Collinsworth to Rico. The Saturday Jags-Chargers game was the return of Al Michaels and Tony Dungy.
Ball game.
Really took the air out of our sails to potentially just be able to show a replay of that game to
That would have been great.
Mike and Chris. But
well done, Dylan. My
good
goodness,
job.
man.
That
guy's memory, his mind is a vault. If he goes in there, it's locked. It's not ever coming out except for through his mouth.
That's exactly right. Wish there was stuff in there other than football history, but man, Dylan, you've got that one locked down.
He's starting to put in producing stuff.
Yeah.
Getting there.
He's getting there.
Getting there.
Hey, Dylan, after Jason throws it, hit that big red button, okay?
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
When it's time to get tickets to your next event, you're covered with an exclusive discount from Tickets for Less. Score big-time savings on your next ticket order.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com. Coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs around 11:45 or so with coordinators, and also we'll see which players are going to be there. We'll see who may or may not practice if there is a injury update. We didn't talk a whole lot about the injuries in an update there, but we certainly can get into that today and then on into tomorrow as well. So let's play a couple of clips here. This was going around yesterday with Justin Fields and all of the stuff taking place in Chicago this week and getting ready to play the Kansas City Chiefs, and the line that has moved from 13 to 12.5, and that's it. It's moved a half point this week with all of the stuff surrounding the Bears. But here's Justin Fields. He weighs in on why he's struggling and why the struggles so far this year.
I felt like, I wasn't necessarily playing my game. Felt like I was kind of robotic and, not playing like myself. So, my goal this week is just to, say F it and just go out there and, play football how I know how to play football. That includes thinking less and just going out there and, playing off of instincts rather than just of, so much, so to say, info in my head, data in my head, and literally just going out there playing football. I mean, just going back to it's a game, and that's it, because that's when, I play my best is I'm just out there playing free and being myself. So I'm going to say kind of just bump all the, what I should do, this and that, like pocket stuff, like I'm going to go out there and be me.
When you say thinking less, what do you think was causing you to think so much, maybe think too much? Could be, coaching, I think. But, at the end of the day, it makes it, they're doing their job when they're giving me, what to look at, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I, can't be thinking about that when the game comes. I prepare myself throughout the week, and then when the game comes, it's, it's time to play free at that point. So, just thinking less and, playing more.
Could be coaching, I think.
What a good follow-up. Yeah. You heard right there. I don't know if everyone else caught it. That is excellent press conferencing.
So there was another follow-up a little bit later on, and I think this is the quote where he believes people are because in the locker room, we could play that, but in the locker room he essentially says, you guys are taking stuff out of context and everything. I believe this is the quote that he was saying was left out when he discusses how he just needs to go and play his game. So a little bit later in the press conference, here's what Justin Fields had to say about just needing to get back to playing his game.
In the big scheme of things, I have to continue to be me and, play the game how I play it. And I think when sometimes I'm coached, I think that, I've, had times where like, okay, they want me to do it like this, so I have to kind of change it. But I mean, I just have to, it's probably more of a me thing than a coach thing. So, when they tell me things, of course I correct it, stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of things, I have to still be, the person and the player, what's got me up to this point. So rather than changing my whole game, just, implement it in my game and, make those little corrections, but don't allow that to change me as a whole player.
I think that's what he wants people to focus on is when he says it's probably more of a me thing than a coach thing. But that's not making it a whole lot better when it's what are the issues. And he says, the first part could be coaching, I think. And then says later on, probably more of a me thing than a coach thing. But it's still coaching. That's the issue. Because when you say, what are the issues? It could be coaching, I think. And what else? He didn't mention anything else. It could be coaching. It could be the way I'm throwing the football. It could be, I'm not seeing it the way I need to see it right now. It could be, defenses have changed things up the way that they're going up against us in these first 2 weeks, and I got to be able to adjust. It could be that, I got, family issues going on, and my mind isn't there, and I need to focus and be able to compartmentalize. Could be a lot of things. But all he said was coaching. It could be coaching, which is what he thinks it is, because it's the only thing he mentioned, which is coaching. He can go back and say, well, probably more of a me thing than a coach thing. But what he's saying is it's a me thing that I need to ignore the coach thing.
Or at least it's a me thing in that I have not been able to execute what the coaches have asked me to do. So that's sort of my fault, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit, but maybe
because of
not.
what they've asked me to do.
Here he is in the locker room after the press conference.
Which is a rare quarterback move. I've never seen it before.
I don't know that we've ever seen a quarterback go to the podium and then the locker room. So this was, because he does say, I want to clear things up. So this was clearly Justin Fields seeing what the reaction was, going to the PR and saying, hey, I want to talk again at the I need to clear some things up. So here Justin Fields is at the locker, blaming everybody else.
You guys' jobs are to get clicks, so it's like when you take my quote out of context and when you just say that, if you paint the picture on the inside out, like y'all are trying to split us up as a team. I'm not blaming anything on the coaches. I'm never going to blame anything on the coaches, never going to blame anything on my teammates. I will take whatever happens in the game, I will take all the blame. I don't care if it's a drop pass, it should have been a pass. Put it on me. But never will you hear anything come out of my mouth to where I will blame it on somebody else. In this organization, my teammates, never will you hear that. So I just want to clear that up and just know that, like, I need to play better. That's it, point blank. If y'all, that's what I should have said in the first place. But, I was trying to give y'all more details because, I appreciate y'all for doing what y'all do. And I try to give y'all the information y'all want for you guys' job. So I'm going to do that. And in the future, but I ask you guys just to put the whole quote out. Don't cut it up into words and pieces to make it seem like I'm saying something that I'm not. So, again, appreciate you guys, what you do, and y'all have a blessed day.
It'd be different if he said something like, it could be a lot of things. It's definitely not coaching. I don't think it has anything to do with them. It could be coaching, I think. Wow, he just said it could be coaching, I think. No, there was no cutting up. Also, your job is to get clicks. No, I think a lot of people's job is simply to cover the team, getting how many people are there to just be shock jock and to get clicks and, I'm going to ask him this. I got you. I got you question. Honestly, how many press conferences across the NFL have media members in attendance that are there for a couple of gotchas each time?
He bookends that. There's so many things in that clip that are so inconsistent. And honestly, the way that he tries to kind of cobble it together on the dismount, I think he's trying. I do. But it's and that maybe this might be the story of Justin Fields' season. I think he's trying, but it didn't work. He bookends that with, look, I know it's your job to get clicks. Where the correct thing to say might be, I know media is really struggling with the modern evolution of how you are supposed to make money while covering these teams, because a lot of revenue models are get clicks, they pay ads out, and then jobs get to be kept, right? So that part can be true, and you can have bad faith aggregators that are doing that in clickbaity ways. Then he ends it with, I want to get you the right information. I appreciate what you all do. Glad to have you. Appreciate how you do your jobs. Just please include the whole quote. You clickbait artists from 45 seconds ago. The other thing is he says, you won't hear me blame my teammates, blame the coaching. You won't hear me say that. Well, no, we did though. We played the audio. We definitely heard you do that.
Yeah, could be coaching.
What he could
I didn't blame the coach. I just said it could be coaching. I didn't say it is.
What he could have said here was, you shouldn't hear me blame the coaches, blame teammates, whatever. Even if it's not my fault, if it's a drop pass, like he says there, which again, I think he's trying. But if it's a drop pass, I got to put it on that. I got to put it on a different spot. It can always come back to the quarterback, just like, listen to Andy Reid, man. Sometimes it frustrates me because it's not true. Andy Reid will take blame for Tommy Townsend screwing up a hold if necessary, right? He's there to put his arms out and get hit by all the arrows he can take.
He took blame for Kadarius Toney dropping 2 wide open passes.
That's exactly right.
I needed to put him in a better position.
That's exactly right.
And instead of maybe in those primary positions that were there, put him in a better position. You put him with nobody within 15 yards surrounding him, and the ball hits him in the hands. That's the position you put him in, and he still said that was my fault. I shouldn't have put him out there.
I think in healthy environments, and certainly with healthy NFL teams, you have everybody trying to reach out and just take a little bit of the blame so it's not so heavy on anybody's single shoulders. And in toxic situations, you have everybody trying to dodge the blame so it's just crushing whoever it lands on. Fields can be unhappy with what he said at the podium and come back and own that a little bit, which, again, I give him credit for even doing that. But it doesn't mean we didn't hear you say what may have been the truest answer. If you told me that I was taking over, let's not make it the Cardinals because they're going to have a number 1 pick. A team that, if I'm taking over a team that needs a coach and a quarterback, I'm the general manager next year, and you tell me, all right, here's what we're going to do. You're either getting Matt Eberflus to be your head coach, or you're getting Justin Fields to be your quarterback. You either get the coaching staff, not even including the defensive coordinator who resigned. You get the Bears front office, coaching staff, all the decision makers, or you get Justin Fields. They wouldn't be able to finish their sentence where I said, I'll take Justin Fields. We'll try. We'll figure it out. Maybe you get him, his Doug Peterson, his Frank Reich, whatever. Maybe there's something to be tapped there. The Bears organizationally is bleeped. So
they fired an offensive guy to hire a defensive guy.
And obviously it has not worked on either side of the football.
No. And since 2010, the Bears have made the playoffs twice, both with Matt Nagy. So
that's hilarious. I hadn't thought about that.
They didn't win any games in the playoffs, but they've been to the playoffs twice since 2010.
So Fields is probably right when he says it's coaching, making him think too much. I think that was an honest answer. He was probably too honest, and he regretted it.
Because you can't really say, well, it's probably coaching, and then say it's coaching because in games they're giving me too many things to worry about. I prepare all week. I can't be thinking and doing those things during the game. I just got to go out there and play. I need to play. So what he's saying is, I've prepared all week. I'm not making adjustments during the game to whatever they're doing. I've already done that. I just need to go and play. So if he comes over the sideline and like, hey, they're doing this, they're doing that. Whoa, now my mind is everywhere. So I need to do this. Then, well, we worked all week on this over there. Yeah, we did. But in the NFL, you're not a robot.
Right.
And it's almost like he's saying, I don't need to play robotic. And what they're saying is, no, you're not playing robotic. Because if you were robotic, the robot would then be able to then figure out what the coaches are saying to adjust to what you did during the week and compute those things and then go, okay, now the defense is doing that. No, they would like you to play more robotic. What you're saying is, I need to play free of thinking at all of what the defense is doing and just go out there. And if I throw the ball, that's fine. Or I just need to run it. And just run it, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop, look, if it's not there, just go. I'm thinking about way too many things, clear the mechanism, because while we talked about some videos out there about how bad the Bears' offense has been and maybe the play calling, there's also some videos out there of Justin Fields standing in the pocket with multiple people wide open.
That clip is horrible.
And then he just starts to run up the middle and takes a sack.
Horrible.
He's got a guy for a touchdown. He's got DJ Moore to his left wide open. This is first down. And he takes a sack.
He's doing the Jason Garrett with the football, just patting it, clapping the
that's
football.
Right. That's
basically what he does.
That's right. We don't have time to get into why I think the Bears are actually whether the coaches or the front office are getting a bad rap with this thing right now. We'll do that maybe after Matt Lane or at some point today. I definitely want to get into it because I think the right approach is being taken by the Bears with Justin Fields. We'll have time today to eventually get into that, but we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Short segment, then we'll talk with Matt Lane. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810.
All right, we'll talk with Matt Lane. We'll get into the Kansas City Chiefs and, boy, a lot of defense that Matt Lane has been looking at for this team. And, boy, there's a lot of reasons to do that. But he wrote at KC Sports Network about the defensive line, the pressures, how those were generated, and the different guys sort of doing different jobs, and also Spag's scheme and the way they approached getting some one-on-one matchups with some, dominant players, like, say, a guy who wears number 95. But also George Karlaftis working on the interior. He's been pretty damn good. And Mike Danimal has been really good working on the interior. And they're looking like this with pressure rate, and Charles Omenihu is at home watching these games. Eventually, he'll be out on the field. Matt Lane next.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. QC Kinetics can change your life.
HB, Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up later on this hour. Right now, let's hear from Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com, and the KC Laboratory Podcast, joining us here in the zone. Matt, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing a lot better this week than I was last week since the Chiefs are coming off a win. And, we know what we got now. We got a defensive-minded football team here.
You're darn right. Taking us back to the 90s Chiefs. It's about damn time that we get a little Marty ball going with this Chiefs team. Winning a game 17-9, unfortunately losing a game 21-20. But, boy, it's got that feel. Besides the sarcasm and the tongue-in-cheek, let's talk about what we're seeing. But you're right. It is a defensive team so far. So I just want to start with this. Why do you think the defense has been this good this early? Is it an element of maybe the Lions offensively weren't as explosive as maybe we thought? Is it the Jags more about their offensive line? Or is this, hey, let's focus on what the Chiefs have done because that's the story, and why is that?
I think it's definitely the Chiefs, and I think the Jags were a very good matchup for this Chiefs defensive front. The Jags offensive line was struggling. It's a team that when they do get pushed around a little bit from the pass rush side, they throw the ball out quick. And the Chiefs, having seen them, 2 times just last year, they were kind of ready for it. But after that, it's a good team. I think you got a lot of second-year players that took a step that you would really like to see. You got L'Jarius Sneed is back and healthy right now. He's getting to focus almost entirely on playing as a boundary corner. So I think you are seeing him play a little bit better because of that quote-unquote limitation in his role. You have Trent McDuffie taking a huge step forward, becoming excellent on the football field. Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, everybody seems to be a little bit better than they were last year when, it took them into kind of the playoffs to find their footing, but they finally got there, and now everyone just seems a little bit better than that.
The Chris Jones factor was obvious even throughout the offseason and the holdout about what he means, and the conversation was really about how much money are you wanting to pay, but everybody knows the impact he can make on the field. And so seeing that against the Jags was not a surprise, especially against a backup left tackle and a rookie right tackle. And it seemed like the Chiefs took advantage as often as they could to go up against Anton Harrison with putting Chris Jones on the left side of the defense going up against the right tackle. But, I came away even from week 1, and the Lions are a top 5 offensive line. I think that's pretty consensus of how good they are across the line. And what the defensive line did, and some individual players, Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, FAU with a couple of quarterback hits in week 1, that you throw in Chris Jones, and certainly it can add another element. And I think he's a force multiplier on this team. But individually, the way some of the players have played early on, Karlaftis on the interior rushing the passer, Dana doing the same thing, FAU showing some at least some potential, some spark from what the Chiefs saw in him to take him in the first round, and the way Steve Spagnuolo is scheming some things up. If you're looking at it and saying, well, these guys took some steps forward in year number 2, certainly that's part of it, but you did a great job focusing on the defensive line at KC Sports Network this morning, that thing coming out this morning. Your sort of takeaway, what you glean, and what you've seen through the first 2 weeks as to if there's some excitement, some optimism of what this Chiefs defensive line can look like moving forward when it was such a massive question mark going into that Lions game.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with that defensive line, right? And you're right. It does start with Chris Jones. So, I think we should start it there too, because that's where the outlook goes. Chris Jones gives you a, defensive player of the year candidate level player. He gives you a guy that can win against any level of competition. He can win immediately. He's a guy that an offense has to account for because he's that good. And we saw that against the Jags, especially because the Chiefs did a good job with this. But anytime he got a matchup that he felt really good about, you could see the confidence and how quickly he won and how much he completely destroyed a play right then and there. He didn't need great coverage behind it to make his impact felt. So the trick for the Chiefs becomes when you only have one guy of that nature, and without Charles Omenihu active right now at all, you might be dealing with a fair amount of guys that you would consider, not even secondary, but more tertiary pass rushers behind it. How do you get him into those matchups? And that's something the Chiefs did a great job of, whether that's showing pressure. They're feinting their blitzes, they're mugging up linebackers and defensive backs onto the line of scrimmage, controlling what the Jags could have done with their pass protection, and that ultimately leaves Chris Jones one-on-one when he had his choice with Anton Harrison, their rookie right tackle, another time with Brandon Scherf as their right guard. Like, they were manipulating what the Jags were able to do to get Chris Jones these really good looks. And, that matters, that he excelled in those spots. But, as you know, it's more than just one guy, right? It's like we're watching this entire pass rush, and beyond Chris Jones, you have other guys. George Karlaftis is getting sacks. Felix is getting pressures. You have the blitzes coming in, and it's because with Joe Cullen at the helm, the Chiefs have gone from a Chris Jones is our fastball, and he's also our curveball, and he's also our changeup, to they all work together now. Like, it's a very complementary pass rush. You don't have guys overlapping each other's rush lanes. You have someone specifically attacking deep in the pocket, someone attacking shallow in the pocket, somebody mirroring the quarterback so they can't scramble and just pick up 3 yards or escape contain. You have this entire unit, and this is what they did versus Detroit, and why I felt so good about the unit then is they're rushing and playing together really well. This is not even 2 full years of Joe Cullen, and they're doing this. They don't even have Charles Omenihu back, who adds another chess piece and gives you a legitimate secondary rusher. Like, this unit could be really, really good come playoff time.
It's you say matchup driven that's there, and a lot of that we look at in Steve Spagnuolo and designing the defensive schemes and the play calls and things like that. But then hearing the mic'd up with Nick Bolton, and before that 3rd down and 10, which resulted in a sack, forced fumble for Chris Jones, and FAU getting a sack on that as well. That Nick Bolton mic'd up tells Chris Jones, hey, find the matchup you want. Find the matchup you want to win on. So it's matchup driven, right? But it's Steve Spagnuolo, here's the play call, here's what we're doing. But then also on the fly, just like, okay, Chris, line up somewhere, and then we can figure out some other things too. Who are you going to beat? Okay, you're going up against the left tackle. It goes a little bit back to last year in the AFC Championship game when he and Carlos Dunlap, when Chris Jones on that 3rd down said, hey, Carlos, slide inside. I'm going up against Adenijai at the against the right tackle on this 3rd down and long against Joe Burrow. And he went and got the sack, and Dunlap, moved inside and rushed from the defensive interior. That not only the Steve Spagnuolo schemes and calls and putting guys up at the line of scrimmage to sort of force the offensive line to protect a certain way, but that was really illuminating to hear Nick Bolton say, hey, Chris, find the matchup that you want to win on, and almost like, and we'll adjust from that.
Yeah, it's the old J.J. Watt defense that they had with the Houston Texans, where it really was just kind of ask J.J. Watt what matchup he likes in certain spots. It can change throughout the game what he's feeling. But the whole point with J.J. Watt is he had the freedom to pick and choose his matchups. And, a lot of times, like Chris Jones, he puts himself on the backside of plays on the weak side, so you have a little bit less, run conflict that you're dealing with, and you really get to pin your ears back against a guy that you have the utmost confidence you are going to beat, and then you just kind of let everybody else, I don't want to say waste the reps, that's not what they're doing, but you maybe force some other guys into more difficult matchups, but you're putting your best player in the most advantageous spot. Like, the Chiefs seem to be doing that with Chris Jones a little bit more these past 2 years, and I think that's great. I think that's a very smart way to go about it. You need to weaponize your best player. You need to find a way to make Chris Jones be as impactful as he possibly can, and they've certainly done that.
Visiting with Matt Lang, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com. Trent McDuffie has been part of the story through the first couple of weeks as well, and a guy that missed a number of games last year, came on strong towards the end of the year, moved into the slot almost primarily at the end of the season, and doing some of that this year, and blitzing and coming up against the run and causing the fumble against the Lions, and just an all-around really good cornerback. It's going to be a loaded question, but how excited are you from what we've seen from Trent McDuffie so far to the cornerback the Chiefs have that they drafted, and what he is and can even grow into be from the smaller sample size we have from seeing Trent McDuffie play?
Yeah, I've always been a big Trent McDuffie fan. I really like the Washington Huskies, just like that lineage, I guess, especially when he was still there, kind of coming off that like kind of Chris Peterson-like tree. I like how they coach their defensive backs. So I've already had like a soft spot for Washington defensive backs, but then watching him play and like having him be an exceptionally dynamic athlete on top of the well-coached like demeanor that he has, and being physical and willing to come downhill and play above his size. Always been a big fan. Never really questioned if he'd be good in the NFL, but he is looking at some significant like size detriments for the cornerback position, arm length, height, stuff like that. And so it was always going to be a question of how well he was able to make up for that. I mean, we're seeing through his rookie year, it showed up at times, but not super frequently, but it did show up at times. And then now we move forward this year, he looks even better. He looks like, I mean, there is no real issues at all with him dealing with that. He looks as good as you ever could have hoped, playing outside, inside. And it's really hard to explain how good Trent McDuffie is, because he's not this player, but he's more in the mold of a Darrelle Revis than a Richard Sherman, in that he's going to deny the ball through his coverage more so than make a bunch of plays on the football. So you don't have as many highlight plays, but what you don't see is him getting targeted over and over again throughout a game. You don't see him in a lot of position to always showcase these highlight level plays. And if you go back and watch, it's just, oh, here he is picking up this deep out from this play action concept without ever being fooled. Oh, here he is riding the hip on this deep crossing route, giving there nowhere for this quarterback to potentially attempt to squeeze a football in. And it just gets impressive because you're stacking up quality rep after quality rep after quality rep through 2 whole games now. I think by the end of this year, it won't even be much of a question who the best defensive back is on the Chiefs. I think right now you can still make a case that it's Snead, and the Chiefs certainly see something there in that regard, because they do have him shadow number 1 wide receivers. But I think by the end of the year, we're all going to kind of know that it's Trent McDuffie, just because of all the different things that he does so well.
PFF as it's a data point. I always preface it with, some people like it, some people don't. I think it's a data point in the overall picture of figuring out, players, teams, things like that. Looking at the beginning of last year for cornerbacks drafted in the 2022 draft, the number 1 player in overall PFF defensive grade of all the cornerbacks is Sauce Gardner. Number 2 is Trent McDuffie. Number 1 in coverage grade of all the cornerbacks drafted in the 2022 draft is Sauce Gardner. Number 2 is Trent McDuffie. And it's not that big of a gap between the two. In fact, it's pretty close from what we're seeing. And I think those numbers may surprise some people if they looked at that and said, well, Sauce Gardner is sort of viewed as this, high-end, elite, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, which he is. He was Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. But seeing the numbers and not seeing this huge gap between Sauce and everybody else, that's seeing Trent McDuffie move his way into, at the end of the year, playing the way that he did to get closer to Sauce, and the way that he's played so far this year to pull that even closer, I think would probably be a surprise to a lot of people to see that, at least from that data point, it's not the wide Grand Canyon gap between Sauce Gardner and the other cornerbacks drafted in the draft last year.
No, absolutely. And like with Sauce Gardner, the media market plays a role. Being that high of a draft pick plays a role. And he got challenged early last year. And so he got to put, his name on the map early in the season, and everybody's followed him. And he's still great, right? I'm not saying anything about that. He's still great.
He's number 1 for a reason. I mean,
right. And so he's very, very good. And then but after him, everybody last year went to Tariq Woolen, quarterback. I believe it was the 4th round by the Seattle Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, very good football player. He had a lot of interceptions. So that brings in the highlights. It brings in the eyes. By the end of last year, Trent McDuffie was playing better than Tariq Woolen was. It's just everybody saw the highlights and stuff of Woolen. So everybody went 1-2 with Sauce Gardner and Woolen as these rookie corners. And if that's what you wanted to go with last year, especially with McDuffie missing time, I fully support that. But very few people mentioned McDuffie right after those guys as being really good. And I think this year that narrative is going to change. I think this year you're going to start, by the end of the season, you're going to start seeing his name put up there, because it won't be the interceptions. It won't be the passes defense that those guys might see throughout the year. But you're going to get to towards the end of the year, and people are going to be posting all the advanced metrics, and his name is consistently going to be right there towards the top. And you're going to watch this Chiefs defense, and you're going to see 22 making a handful of plays against the pass, run, as a rusher throughout the game, and it's going to start to kind of build this resume. It's going to be, again, very similar to like Jason Verrett before he started battling through all his injuries.
Yeah.
Any one game, you maybe don't see all the highlights, but once you get a large enough sample size kind of through a year, you're just like, okay, he's just never getting beat, and that matters.
And just as a quick side note on that, and then I want to move to the offense and some questions there and what you're seeing from that. But FAU this year was the 7th defensive end drafted in the first round. And again, it's an incredibly small sample size with that of those drafted in the first round only this year. The number 1 overall grade of PFF is Will Anderson. Number 2 is FAU. And he's right there in the pass rush grade as well for all of the defensive ends drafted this year. And Josh and I sort of went through the other 6 drafted. Will Anderson, obviously, phenomenal. He's going to be that good. But Tyree Wilson has looked awful. Lucas Van Ness has looked pretty good and roughly sort of the same that FAU has looked, kind of in line there. Will McDonald was a healthy scratch for game 2, just inactive.
Yeah.
That was the number 15 overall pick. Miles Murphy is kind of playing the same role as FAU, sort of situational. Just when Hendrickson is tired, he comes in, but he's 32 snaps. He's only got 1 pressure, where FAU has 35 snaps, and he's got 4 pressures and 2 quarterback hits and a half sack. And then Nolan Smith has played a total of 13 snaps this year. So it's 2 weeks. It is so I'll preface it. But being the 7th defensive end drafted in the first round, maybe 2 years we'll look back and go, boy, those guys are amazing and they were drafted there for a reason. But early indications say that there might be some issues with Tyree Wilson and Will McDonald, and we'll see what Miles Murphy looks like, because he may have to take over for Trey Hendrickson. And Nolan Smith is still in a loaded defensive end and edge rusher, group in Philadelphia. But FAU so far has looked like he's not the 7th best defensive end or edge rusher that was taken in the first round.
Yeah, it's similar concept. It's been really good. The Chiefs have used him very well, right? Like I talked a little bit earlier about the complementary rush. They say, hey, we know that you're really explosive off the ball and you're very fast. Maybe you're still working on your actual block deconstruction, but what we can do is weaponize that speed. You can be the deep rusher. We talked about the high-low. You can be the guy that's rushing, high in the pocket. You can be at the 8 to 10 yard mark, and if our quarterback gets pushed back, you're there. You don't have to worry about this other stuff. So it's kind of simplified it, but he's doing an excellent job. He is showcasing a speed rush that, including Chris Jones, nobody else on this Chiefs team has had since Dee Ford and Justin Houston back in 2018. That's the last time somebody kind of has this real threat of a speed rush that he has. And so the Chiefs have used it really well in the right spots, and hopefully that continues. I feel very confident. I was a little not worried, but wondering how they were going to get snaps out of Mike Dana, who's clearly improved and going to play, and Chris Jones, and Charles Omenihu when he comes back, and George Karlaftis, and then also still keep Felix in the mix. We've seen a lot of Karlaftis and Dana lined up on the interior. They've already mentioned that they like Omenihu in that kind of role as well. So, I think they're going to find a way to get all these guys on the field, so I don't think his snap count will ever drop. I don't know if Felix's will go up from where it is for the much of this year, but I definitely think they have found a pretty stable role at minimum for him.
Yeah, and another indication, he's played 35 total snaps. 28 of them have been as a pass rusher. So that's what he is. And we knew that coming in, that, hey, he's not the same as Karlaftis, that's viewed as more of a 3-down defensive lineman that can, set the edge and do some things like that. That's not FAU. He's going to be a pass rusher, which is what the Chiefs needed, was somebody to get after the passer. Matt Lane is our guest, kcsn.substack.com and the KC Laboratory podcast. The Chiefs offense, the tackles, that has been the conversation going on. And since the Bears game, Andy Reid came out and said, look, Juwan Taylor's got to adjust. Put it on Juwan Taylor, saying, it's you, buddy. We're not blaming the officials or anything like that. I'll just ask, we discussed this in the first hour, and just ask a simple question. I'll ask you as well. Are you concerned? Are there concerns with the tackles moving forward from what we've seen through 2 weeks?
I think it's a two-part thing. With Juwan Taylor, I'm not concerned. I do think it's going to take a couple weeks, though, for him to fix being comfortable lining up a little bit tighter to the line of scrimmage so he doesn't get illegal formation penalties. And there might still be the occasional false start, because here's a guy who spent months timing his snap with the cadence of Patrick Mahomes and the snap of Creed Humphrey. Now all of a sudden you're saying that he's under a microscope and he needs to maybe be a fraction of a second slower. That might be hard to break in just a week or two of practice. So you might still get a couple false starts, but I have full faith that he'll figure that out. The alignment issues are up to him. He should be able to figure that out this week. It's just it might cause some discomfort in parts of his sets, because he will be a step closer to the line of scrimmage than he's used to being from, again, what he practiced all summer, all fall, all training camp long. He was doing one thing and he now has to change it. There might be some growing pains with Taylor, but I'm not concerned, because even now, dealing with, it was 5 penalties, I believe, versus the Jags. Not great, but if you look beyond the penalties, didn't allow a single pressure, was one of the Chiefs' better run blockers, despite that not being his strength. Like, he's been very good during the plays. You just have to get by some of these penalties, and right now the majority of them are procedural stuff that he's having to fix on the fly. So no real concerns with Jawan Taylor, just a little bit of patience while he figures it out. Donovan Smith has been good for the Chiefs, especially given the price tag that they signed him for. But I do think you see a little bit of the warning signs from what he was last year. You know, he gets beat inside a little too frequently by speedier rushers, and that forces him to hold. And we've seen that come up on big plays in back-to-back weeks so far. I mean, we're pacing for 17 holding penalties this year, which isn't great, right? It's obviously just one a game, but, like, this is something that has plagued him throughout his career. I do think you see speed still gets with him. And then, again, not a concern, but something to show patience with. He seems to be a little bit off schedule with some of the other offensive linemen when the Chiefs do some of their play action stuff. If you watch their hard play action cells, Donovan Smith looks like he's a little unsure of who he's blocking, when he's passing stuff off to Joe Thuney. And I think in both games now, you've seen a couple plays where that has resulted in a relatively early pressure because he's just unsure of who he's supposed to block. And that's just a team continuity thing that'll get fixed. But I think there's small warning signs on the Donovan Smith side, none on the Jawan Taylor side for me.
Last one for you. Matt Lane is our guest, and I want to look at from week 1 to week 2 to the rest of the season in terms of the wide receivers and the targets. In week 1, Patrick Mahomes targeted 12 different players. In week 2, Patrick Mahomes targeted 11 different players. 12 if you throw in Donovan Smith, but 11 players that typically would get a target. I want to compare it a little bit to college basketball in that the beginning of the season, you'll see some coaches use 8, 9, maybe 10 guys in a rotation. But as it gets to January and into conference play, and especially the tournament, that is shaved down to probably 7 or 8 guys that they really trust that are growing into roles. Is that the expectation for you this year for the Chiefs, that early on they're getting an indication, an idea of how these players are working with Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' trust with them? Maybe it's even attrition. Richie James could be out for a month or so with the injury to his knee. Or is this something that just throughout the year the Chiefs are going to be using all their different targets like this and using guys in different ways? How do you expect this to go? The 12 targets, 11 targets of the first couple of weeks, shaved down to where you get to what has been typical for the Chiefs? Or this is the offense?
I do think there will be some shaving down, more so than, I guess, the targets. It'll be, I think, your snap counts. I think your snap count stuff will be a little bit more consolidated. It'll become a little bit more predictive, whether that is just where the package of plays are coming for some of these receivers, like your Rashee Rice's, Justin Ross. Not that it's not already, but I think that will get limited down a little bit more. As far as targets, though, like, I look across this team, and this team needs to, I think, on any given week, target 9, 10, 11 different players because they don't have a go-to guy. There's one player, that's Travis Kelce right now, that is worth feeding targets to making sure they get their touches. Yes, you want to give Kadarius Toney a chance to touch the ball every couple series. Yes, Rashee Rice might be a guy that's also in that mold. You just want to see what he can do after the catch. But outside that, there's nobody you have to feed the ball to. So limiting it down to 8, 9 guys, I think, would be probably a little too limiting for an offense that doesn't have a lot of players that are deserving of high targets outside of Kelce yet. Maybe someone emerges. Maybe Justin Watson continues this stretch he's on. Maybe MVS becomes a little bit more reliable than he has been throughout his career as more than just a vertical receiver. And those guys are, not, I don't want to say worth, but like it becomes worthwhile to force feed them 7, 8 targets in a game or something. But until then, they're going to throw the ball 30 plus times. And if you're throwing the ball that much, there's probably 10 plus receivers throughout the game that deserve at least one, if not a couple targets, just because not many guys are separating themselves from anyone else.
All right, prediction time. Bears, Chiefs this weekend. Do you have a score in mind of what you think may happen out on the field on Sunday?
I do. I keep predicting shootouts, and it keeps not being shootouts, so I'm done disrespecting the Kansas City Chiefs defense. They are going to shut the Bears out to 0 points while the offense scores 31-0. Part of this is tongue-in-cheek because I have disrespected the defense for too many weeks now, but also I do think that the Chiefs should win this one pretty big. I don't trust what kind of state the Bears are currently in. This is one of the few times where I think in the NFL you have a pretty big talent gap at GM, head coach, and the players on the field. If there was ever a time to like predict a kind of college-esque blowout of one team just simply being more talented, I think this is the kind of game it would happen in.
We'll see what happens. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, as always, appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the football. We'll talk in a few weeks.
Thank you guys for having me on. Enjoy your weekend and go Chiefs.
Absolutely. There you go. Matt Lane, great stuff from him. And again, go check that out at kcsn.substack.com. You wrote a lot about the defensive line, the usage, the alignments, what Steve Spagnuolo is doing to create some mismatches and create some one-on-ones specifically for Chris Jones or even for some other players. And then those individual players, not just Chris Jones, coming through and making plays, which is a big part of it. Coach can put you in a position, you got to go and win, and the Chiefs have been doing that with their defensive line. Maybe it was more about the Jags' offensive line. We'll see as it moves forward. The Bears' offensive line isn't exactly, the 7 bricks of granite from back in the day. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's always easy to tell you about all the good stuff.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Head up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs, the coordinators, and we'll see which players will be there. I don't know. Did we get a text already?
I haven't seen yet, actually. Not aware.
Okay, yeah.
I'll keep an eye out. No
report
report
yet.
yet.
Why don't you keep an eye out?
I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye right out.
Keep that eye out for which players may or may not be at the podium today for your Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll report Patrick Mahomes will not be at the podium today.
Okay.
We got it narrowed down by 1.
Interesting. We'll also be, paying attention to what the injuries may or may not be. That'll be Ted Cruz coming out and announcing injuries before any of the coordinators get up there. But, that was an announcement of injuries that was pretty surprising with Andy Reid that came out yesterday when, he talked about Richie James and the MCL that is a little bit longer, a more serious injury that, maybe he didn't say it, but I would guess if you're talking about an MCL injury that's a little more serious and longer term, you're probably looking at least a month or so with rest, recovery, rehab, back into football shape. But then Isaiah Pacheco not practicing, Kadarius Toney not practicing, one with the hamstring contusion, that being Pacheco, the sprained toe for Kadarius Toney. But Andy Reid said after the game on Sunday that Kadarius Toney injured it but came back in and played. Nick Bolton with the ankle injury, Willie Gay with the quad injury. So you've got 5 guys that were limited or did not practice. 4 of them seem to be day-to-day, not as serious. One of them in Richie James from a position of quantity.
Yeah.
That they have a decent amount of players at that position. And if you're going to be banged up, Josh, it ain't the worst week to have to go through some guys taking some time off from injuries.
Yeah, and specifically to Richie James, not to, downplay it for him, that stinks, but we've been talking about the Chiefs carrying these 7 wide receivers, activating all 7 wide receivers in both games so far. I remember talking about during training camp, maybe even before camp when before Toney got hurt, and then even in the time between. It was just a matter of there are 7 here now. That very rarely lasts all the way through a season like that. So, also news here on the cornerback front: Derek Stingley out to a hamstring injury. Don't see the extent here, but it doesn't look good.
Okay. Juwan Taylor will be talking today.
That'll be interesting.
So, Dave Tobe, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, and Juwan Taylor. So there's some interesting things. Steve Spagnuolo, Dave Tobe, no Richie James, but still Steve Spagnuolo with Chris Jones returning, and Matt Nagy facing the Bears, and Juwan Taylor facing the refs.
Yeah, some big matchups. I'll take the Chiefs minus 25.5, but the refs plus 15.5.
That's right. Man, this seems like it's like, oh, Vegas, what do they know? That they're never going to have an NFL line of 17 or 18. It just doesn't happen. But 12.5 seems like it's easy money. I like the minus the points and under the total because I don't think the Bears will score much in this game. So
I think you're probably right, but I've been wrong a lot this year so far, so I might give it a couple of weeks and check back in.
We'll find out. We're going to check in with the Chiefs coming up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey, what are you doing for lunch today? Because you need to join me at Chicken and Pickle in Overland Park. Hey, it's the Water Boy, and I am back with a...
All right, welcome back here in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will play a little sports or leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. $25 at Johnny's Tavern on the line. You can join Todd Lebo today at Johnny's Tavern in Lawrence from 4 to 6 p.m. Everyone who stops in will be registered to win a great grand prize, 2 tickets to see your hometown team play this Sunday. That is at Johnny's Tavern in Lawrence. We'll give away $25 to Johnny's Tavern today in sports or leisure. And we will hear from Dave Tobe, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, and Juwan Taylor today. So we'll head out there when that happens and get an update on some injuries as well, and what will take place this weekend with the Chiefs and the Bears, and a game coming up tonight with San Francisco taking on...
Yeah. I would say if there's ever a night, guys, to use the Prime Vision on Amazon.
It'll be tonight.
If you want to watch, and you might not go back, but I really do think, hey, here's what you can look for. You can look for Mike Shanahan offense. You can look to a Shanahan offense. Whoever's currently coaching them.
Mike and then Kyle making it better.
It's fine. You can watch a Shanahan offense versus maybe a Kafka sort of offense, your Daboll offense. There will be stuff from the live all 2020 from the live all 2022. Good Lord,
all 2022. It's 2023
it's
now.
2023 now. Being able to see that in real time, there will be some cool route concepts and stuff. I think you'll enjoy it, being able to watch it that way, and you won't even have to worry about if the game's competitive or not.
Well, at least the Giants, 2 of the first 3 weeks are on national TV. So that's good. Thank God for that.
Probably stop soon, right?
I think so.
Let's go ahead and look at their schedule.
Do you want to look at their schedule?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here.
They play Monday night next week.
Next week, yeah. Monday night is Giants-Seahawks. That'll be sweet.
And they play Sunday Night Football 2 weeks after that.
Back on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to deal with them again until Giants-Packers.
On Monday Night Football again.
Monday night again in December.
But 1, 2, 3, 4 of the first 6 weeks, the Giants are on national TV. Thank God for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, guys. At least with the Jets, I understood it this year because it was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Here's Ted Cruz with injuries.
Guys that are not working today are Nick, Richie James, and Kadarius. Everybody else is going to work, and we'll update you after practice on how they do.
Sorry, Ted, one more time.
Yep, sure. Bolton, James, Richie James, and Kadarius. Not practicing.
Good to see you, Stan.
Okay, so there's Ted Cruz. So Bolton, James, Kadarius Toney not practicing today. The other guys, being Pacheco and Willie Gay, will be participating. Here's Dave Tobe.
Who's your return guy?
Who's my
Or guys?
I got a lot of guys, obviously. I mean, I got a lot of options. Tony, obviously, Sky, Watson. Rice has done it. When we put him in there, questionable. But all those guys can do it. I feel. We'll see how it works out.
You think it'll be a committee?
I do. We'll start off with somebody, and if he's fine and he's not getting a lot of reps, I can stay with him again. And we do have options, guys that have done it in games, and that's where we'll go with it.
Yeah. Take us through that fourth down decision in the first quarter. Would have been a long field goal, but you might could have tried it. What happened there?
Well, early, in pregame, like I talked about before, we always go through his warm-up, and we felt like his yard line on that side was 35-yard line. So we were 2.5 yards outside of that spot, and it was early in the game, and sometimes you gotta weigh it out and say, do we kick it, miss it, and give him field position? Our defense was playing great. We decided to play field position in that case, and Tommy came through and put it on the 1. Now they got to go 99 yards. So it was, I'm glad Tommy came through. Didn't hit a touchback right there. It would have been a bigger issue, but I just think you have to make that. You have to protect Bucker too. We come to a decision of where we're going to go, and I don't want to try to go out of that zone early in the game. Later in the game, we can kind of stretch it a little bit when we need it. It's all about percentages of what we think he can make and not make.
Coach, it looked like Richie lost that ball in the sun that hit him.
Yeah.
When someone, I mean, what's the coaching on that? Do you help him get out of there, or what do you do when?
I think he thought he was, and I'm speaking for him, but I think he thought he was in the perfect position to catch it. I mean, because you watch the tape and you can really, on the TV copy, you can see his eyes like he was looking at the ball. It wasn't like he was looking at the coverage or anything. He thought he was looking at the ball, and then all of a sudden it kind of moved late on him, and obviously, didn't work out like we wanted to. But that, he's a good catcher, and that was an oddball. That was a thing that, I don't think is going to be a problem going forward. We just need him to get better.
Do you guys ever intentionally, I know the shadows get weird here later in the year, do you guys ever intentionally try to get the ball where
yeah. We'll look at that. And the sun makes a difference, and we'll depending on if we win the toss, lose the toss, it depends on where we kick direction, so we know we're going to get in the second half and all those things. All that stuff comes into play.
Coach, I don't know if you saw the Patriots.
I did.
So, have you got any ideas like that?
They executed it well. Now, this is something. It wasn't the first time it's been done. It's been done before. I've seen the Patriots. I think it was the Patriots do this same thing. They just didn't get the block, And I think it might have been Pittsburgh too. But over my career, I've seen it before. But this is the first time somebody got a block on it. So now it's a big deal. So now we have to talk to our field goal team and say, what do you do, if you get that, and how do you handle it? And without getting into that, we covered it. And, I think more people are going to try it because it's a copycat league, so we're going to see it again, for sure.
I was about to say, is that something just in Belichick's crazy mind, or is that kind of...
Yeah, I think he's done it before. I mean, it's been something that they thought that they could get something on against somebody, but they weren't successful with the block, But this guy ran it perfect, timed it up perfect. Got the block, and it was a nice play. It was impressive.
The odds of Tommy to play like that, just from
You have to, there's a lot of things that go. He was initially he's looking at the holder to get his start. You have to practice the heck out of it. You watch the holders routine, and then as you start running, now you go to the ball, and when the ball snaps, boom, you just go. If the ball doesn't snap, obviously you gotta bail. So it's not an all or nothing thing. You're still looking at the ball at the last second, but you're on a run and start. Now the momentum of your body. I mean, it's hard for that wing to get that thing stopped because he's going so fast, and that's what happened. He ran through the arm of the wing and got the block.
Which
good
player
play.
on the Chiefs roster might be best at that?
We'll see. We'll see.
What goes into determining who? How do you guys determine who is a return guy for you? Do they have to have college experience? Or
I mean NFL experience preferably.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a big difference between college and NFL. Catching punts and kickoffs and the guys coming down the field and the type of ball, hang times, the different stuff that you're going to get. So I'd rather have a guy that's done it in the game, so he has that experience, and we have guys that have done it and done it at a high level. So we'll be okay. We just need 17 to get back healthy again.
Dave, we see how often you work on the kickoffs and the punt, just catching the ball. How different is that than?
It's way different. It's way different. Catching a real punt and catching a punt off of jugs, totally different. Like the jugs will give you the perfect turnover every time. A punt, you're going to get the crazy punt, the crazy rotation of the football, and the wind affects it differently. So it's harder to catch a real punt. So that's why we try. And every time we have a chance to catch Tommy's punts, we want to do that as much as we can. But you can't have Tommy. He's not a human jugs machine, so you can only get so many.
I'm guessing that adds to the degree of difficulty.
The punt returner, I said this before. You got quarterback and you got punt returner. In my opinion, it's a hard job, and it's there's a lot. We ask a lot of those guys, and it's a tough position to play.
You guys have a punt count on Tommy during the week like that? Because you want him to catch some of them. What's your number? How much do you make him kick in a week?
That's a good question. Tommy likes to punt a lot, but the problem is Tommy's on the other field, and offense and defense are going. They got their drills that they're doing. So the key is to find time when they're not, the receivers aren't doing something, or the returners aren't doing something. They can overcatch Tommy's punt.
Anything so far that surprised you on the fair catching on the kicks this week?
There hasn't been that many. There's only Frazier gives me stats all the time. There's been 33 kicks that haven't been in the end zone, and there's only been 3 fair catches. The balls that have been hit from the goal line to the 15.
Last one, Nate.
That was my question.
Yeah, that was it.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. See you later.
All right, there's Dave Tobe. A lot of options on the return game. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Rashee Rice, although he said he's done it, but questionable. So I don't know that it'll be Rashee Rice. Here's Steve Spagnuolo.
All right, lucky we got another nice day out there. Somebody said the rain's coming, so looks like we might stay dry today, which is good. I don't have much to say. We're on to the next game and looking forward to it, so with that, I'll open it up.
Steve, a couple weeks leading up to the Detroit game, you had kind of said you weren't sure maybe where this defense was, what you were good at, what you weren't good at.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're probably ahead of where you thought you might be at this point. I mean, is that fair to say? And also, if so, what are maybe some of the reasons for that?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, my expectations are never we're going to be here after 2 games will be there. It's always the hope that we're going to get better as we go. I'll tell you what I told them on Tuesday, that I'm proud of the way they played, and we got to just keep stacking those kind of games. You know, we kind of put it to bed real quickly on Tuesday, and we're on to Chicago now. We've done some good things. That doesn't mean that's going to continue, because it's a different challenge this week than it was last week. There's a whole different challenge. A lot of unknowns here, in our opinion. So hopefully the play in certain situational areas, hopefully that remains the same, because I think that's always really important. 3rd down, red zone. We probably haven't had as many turnovers as we would like to get. We still can probably shore up some tackling in the areas here. And really generally overall in the run defense, it's not quite where we want it. I'm talking really mostly just 1st and 2nd down. So those are some of the things that we looked at and talked about on Tuesday and as we got ready for this game.
When you say some unknowns this week, what
yeah.
do you...
Well, so you take, listen, when you're at the beginning of the season and there's not a great high volume of number of plays to look at with this personnel group that we're facing, you go off of 2 games, that's one set eyes on what they've been doing. Then you go back to last year, which they did really, we're just not really sure which way they're going to go. We know they're talking, a couple of different things. So we, more than anything, we've kind of turned it back to us and just kind of execute what we do, and let's see what their plan is going into the game. That's what I mean by.
I understand that you guys are great with next man up. When you watch the film and Chris is back, how do you quantify his impact on everything?
Yeah, well, listen, Chris isn't an all-pro player, so I think he influences what offensive lines do. If anybody on either side of the ball in any type of football is going to concentrate assets to one guy, it should open things for other guys. I think that's happened a little bit in this last game for us, and hopefully that continues to happen, because guys like George and Mike and Felix, we need that. I thought Derek had a really good game. Knocking that ball down was really important. So having a player like Chris in there certainly opens up some things for the other guys.
Did he surprise you about what he was able to do?
In terms of coming off the street and not right. In some regards, no. I think we talked about this before he got back. He's always kept himself in great shape, so I really didn't worry about that part. We did fear the injury thing, just because your body's not trained for what you have to go through on a Sunday. So that was always a fear. But I thought Joe and Terry kind of managed it pretty good. The numbers came out about where we thought they should. I think he was in the 30s somewhere with numbers of plays. And we'll just see as we go forward, but we like having him out there.
We talked a little bit in training camp about you using Leo more in
Yeah.
some pass rushing scenarios.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's happening.
Yeah.
How has he matured in that? And he talked to us about working with Joe and Terry a lot as well. How have you seen
Yeah.
that pay off?
Well, I tell you what, every guy on the team, probably not just the Div, will tell you that Leo might be the strongest pound for pound guy we got on the team. He's strong. I mean, real strong. You can see what he does to tight ends, and now he's even kind of brought that to tackles. He's always had a little bit of a pass rush instincts. He did a little bit of it at Wisconsin, kind of from off the ball, not on the ball. But there's a lot of places that we feel like we can use Leo, and we want to try to do that as much as we can. A little bit of it's dictated by what the offense is putting out there. But I'm really happy with what Leo's done, and we're going to keep trying to use him as much as we can. And all those linebackers have done a nice job.
Yeah, I was going to say all those linebackers have kind of been shuffled in.
Yeah.
So Nick and Willie are still at the top of snaps, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a crapshoot.
Well, we felt like, Brendan, myself, all the coaches felt like we acquired some players there at linebacker, Drew in particular, right? And then Jack's been here, and young Cam Jones was doing really well on special teams. Plus Willie, we knew what we had, and Leo. So that you looked at that room and said, "There's some guys there that can make plays and help us." So let's find ways to get them on the field. I mean, you guys have seen Leo out there with Drew and Nick, you know. So there's 3 linebackers there, and then it's been Willie and Leo and Nick. So we're kind of mix and matches. We'll do it as we go through the season and find spots that we can use those guys that'll help us effectively.
Seems to be some uncertainty with Nick this week. How ready is
Yeah.
Drew if need be?
Well, I think Drew's. I mean, we're very fortunate we got Drew. He's played linebacker before. He's been in the system now a little bit. Got a couple games under his belt. You guys would have noticed in both games that we played, Drew. There was certain series in the first half there where Drew would go out and be the mic. We gave Nick some reps off, and we wanted to do that early because it was early in the season. Number one, and the second game it was because we were in Florida, and we knew that it could get long, and we all wanted to be fresh at the end of the game. And I think that will help Drew if he has to step in there and take over for Nick in this one.
Steve, the red zone in particular is something you emphasized a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, had a really good day Sunday.
Yeah.
What do you think just of the performance overall? And then after that, I want to ask you about one specific.
What I think mostly is I hope it continues. But I was proud of the way those guys played, the way we stood up in the red zone in some adverse situations. But the guys, down there more than any other place in the field, I think that the group has to play like that. It's not just about an individual making plays here or there. I mean, you got to be on all cylinders down in the red zone because things happen fast. Andy talks about that all the time. And I thought the way we functioned down there, we've done a couple of different things, not a lot different, maybe just enough tweaks in there to help us. And last year, if I remember correctly, one of the things that was challenging down there when we went back and studied it was controlling the quarterback with beating us with his feet or getting out of the pocket and making a play. So if we can keep doing that, and this week's going to be a pretty good challenge with the quarterback we got down there. So
That's the play I wanted to ask you about, that first down where Trevor takes off the left. Is that something that you guys see in film? Is that just instincts?
yeah, that was on the one, right? Yeah. We expected them to, and that's what they were trying to do. It's just that I think the quarterback, I think Trevor just saw that we had packed everybody in there. And we had worked on that. That was one of those plays where after the game as a coach you go, okay, we did work on the right thing during the week. That doesn't always happen. And that's a kind of an execution thing. There was a lot more going on that play than just Legarius and Nick. Some of the guys that were in tune to him there, it was really important that they did what they did to get them to pull the ball. So that was well practiced and well coached by the coaches to get that done.
Steve, along those lines, I think there were 3 times that they ended up throwing the ball out of the end zone. Maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But those all, I assume you think reflected the coverage, right? There was no place to put the ball.
Yeah, I thought our coverage on those particular downs was really good. I mean, they got Jay Reed one on a penalty, right? I thought the coverage was pretty tight, and he couldn't go anywhere else but there. And then LJ had one but the coverage was pretty much on point. That I'm not going to say where they were, but there was a couple of holes that he could have found. And because maybe we made him move around a little bit. I know Chris made him move a couple of times, and that helps because it gets the quarterback off his progression. So all of it it still went back to this, kind of all pieced together.
And at some point, it's the angle that you've got there, though, on those balls they tried to do. I mean,
yeah.
You're gritting your teeth as the dough goes up, but you like where the guys were.
Yeah, you want to listen when the receiver gets to the back end line. A, you want to try to push him out so he's ineligible, and B, if they're going to complete a pass, you want it to be over the top of you back there because then a couple things can happen, right? They can step on the end line, catch it, not catch it, And when the ball's thrown along the goal line, they're going to be thrown low, so we're defending balls low. So all those things we go through.
Steve.
Okay, well, you need 3 more. You got to get out of there.
Okay.
Steve, PJ, and Nick.
Steve, Nick franchise showed him mic'd up in the game, and he was telling Chris pre-snap, hey, find someone to beat against, line up, find somebody to beat. Is that something that you allow him to do? Just pick a spot?
Yeah, with both those guys. I mean, there are times when we just tell Chris, especially in a passing situation, line up where you want to line up on this down. And he does that. What's great is the other guys around him. Everybody right now is flexible enough that they can go to different spots. And listen, Nick tells a lot of people where to go and what to do. That's what I mean. But I mean that in a good way. I don't mean he's telling them what to do. You know what I'm saying? He helps them. But he's incredible in that regard. He can do a lot of things at one time. He's a multitasker. And that's good as a Mike linebacker.
And then looking at Fields, I know you probably heard some of his comments where he says he wants to venture out of the pocket this week. How much do you take from words when you see the film?
Well, listen, if you go watch film from last year, when he does that, it's scary. We saw something on one of the PFF slides that he's had as many of those take off, get to 20 miles an hour as Tyreek Hill, and we all know what Tyreek can do. So it's a concern. It would have been whether he said that or not, because I think if you let him do that, he can wreck the game. Yeah.
Last one, H.
Steve, you're known for man-to-man coverage, obviously in the secondary, but how much do you feel like you guys have worked on zone and sort of match zone coverage, and just when you see that has worked from a coaching standpoint to the guys?
Yeah, all our zone coverages are match zone. We're not a spot drop, zone eyes on the quarterback team. Some of what you may think is man is not man. It just ends up looking that way. Yeah, because we match it. But we believe in that philosophically. That's what we believe in zone coverage wise. And when our guys, it goes back to you can go back to the red zone, and because some of that's matched too. And when you execute that, when guys are playing off of each other, it's not pure man where you're just taking your guy. You might end up with that guy. You might end up with that guy. When you can do that and you're in sync, that's when it starts to flow a little bit together. So the guys are getting used to each other in that way. That it? Okay. Guys, have a great day.
I'll tell you what, a perfect example of that was Jalen Watson on that third down, because Christian Kirk, I believe, got handed off twice to Jalen Watson.
That's exactly right.
So the match, zone was
a great call.
Not just a zone. It was, I got this guy. Okay, now you got him. Here's Matt Nagy.
Going back home? Not home. But going back to playing against Chicago.
Yeah.
What are the thoughts that come to your mind?
For me, it's not about that. It really isn't. People say that, but this is a year and a half away from my time there. But being back home here with these guys, and we know what we have ahead of us, being able to prepare for any NFL game in particular, like you just said, it's I know people in the building, I know players, a lot of support staff, and that's what's real. But at the same point in time, you really do try to get to a point where you want to make sure that it's not about any of that, and I mean that. This is about our team versus them, and me being a Kansas City Chief and going out and being better from last week. Regardless of who we're playing, we got to improve offensively, be better there, and that's really been the focus since that game ended last weekend.
Is that as easy as you just made it sound?
What's that?
Just to focus just purely on that stuff?
Yeah, it is.
Consider the fact that you're playing Chicago?
It is. I mean, we got to, probably more than anything for me, was more of even in the preseason last year, going back to Chicago, a lot of familiar faces, people. So I feel like I got that out of the way last year, and now here we are a year and a half later, and it's a different team there now. There's still some players that I know. I built some unbelievable relationships with people in the building. Very appreciative of the relationships I built with George McCaskey, Mrs. McCaskey, Ted Phillips, Ryan Pace, etc. A lot of players and coaches, but that's in the past, and so right now I'm so excited to be in here with these guys and practicing every day and making what you just asked me simple so that we can go and do everything we can to get a win, for real.
Matt, what are the coaching points that you want this week?
Well, again, we talked week one about some of the drops with the wideouts, emphasizing it, but yet not making it such a huge deal to where it impacts them again this week. And Jawan is a really, really good football player. He's a great person. He wants to be better. And so the only thing you can possibly do is just continue to just keep practicing with the cadence, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, which we are more nonverbal there in Jacksonville. So just keep working on it. And if there's times in practice where it happens, why did it happen and how do we fix it? And we know that, officials and other teams are looking for it. He knows that, we know that, so we just got to keep working at it. That's the only thing you can do.
He's had an issue in his career, obviously, when he was with Jacksonville. How much have you had to work with him up to this point about those kinds of things?
Yeah, Coach Heck's done a great job of being able to probably emphasize and just remind him at times, when you mix the cadence up verbally too. It's one thing when you go on one every play. It's another thing when you now change it up and you go on 2, on 3, etc. Change your cadence up. So that's even more of a challenge. So staying positive with it. I think for sure, and Jawan knows this, it wasn't just him. Now, those false start penalties last week affected us and put us in second and longs. But we had a lot of other penalties. We had a lot of other self-inflicted errors that we have to be better at in all phases. You know what I mean? So we look at that. We always start with us as coaches, like how can we put guys in best positions possible? And then when we do, how are you executing? And part of that is pre-snap, is making sure there's no, false start penalties, illegal formations, etc. We had all of that last week. We had turnovers, but we also, as bad as it was, we won the football game because of great defense and situational football offensively last week. End of the half, we score a touchdown. Start of the third quarter, we go down and have a nice drive. And then to end the game, we're in a 4-minute mode. We have a big play, 3rd and 6, make a big play, and then finish it with the ball. So situationally, that's the good. But we gotta be better so that we can help our defense and special teams to be all 3 phases.
When you're able to start the second half with the 30-yard run and kind of stick and the runs working, how does that help your offense in totality?
Well, it's big. Any big plays, explosives, when you have a big, especially in the run game, that's an easy breather for the quarterback. It's a great momentum builder for the O-line. It sets the defense because now play action's better because you're running it. So, and then when you do it the first play of the third quarter, that's momentum, as far as being able to just get going and get points. And so that was great. But too many drives last week where we were going backwards, and we're way too detailed and we're way too hard on ourselves in regards to making sure that coaches and players are on the same page with doing everything the right way and not beating ourselves. And Jacksonville's that's a great defense and a great team, but it just goes to show in the end, when you play like that, we still won the game. Now, what can we do when we don't do that? Has been kind of where we're at this week.
Man, when you hit with young quarterbacks, and I'm not asking about Justin Fields,
Mhm.
because he said what he said yesterday about having too many things to say, but you've been around a lot of young quarterbacks.
Mhm.
How do you find the balance as a coordinator or a head coach to get them not to be thinking too much and get them to play freely?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into the answer to that question. I'll say, just for sake of time, that we live in this world of instant gratification right now. I'll start there. And so wherever we are, you see a lot of these young quarterbacks that come in that are forced to play and do well right away. You have the old stories of other quarterbacks 5, 10, 15 years ago, even some more recently, that have had some time to sit and get to see. These NFL defenses are so much different than college. And so you need to, be able to adjust and adapt to the player and how they can grow. But you also got to be able to go through the highs and the lows together. And so, to your point, I mean, it's in this league. It's not just Justin in Chicago. It's in this league in general. How do you do that, navigate through that, and staying together, staying positive, and going through that with Patrick as a rookie, letting him see Alex living that, and then my experiences in Chicago with Mitchell, and there's a lot to it. But yeah, I think staying together, being positive. But also understanding that instant gratification is real. So how do you get to that point?
Bouncing off the run game.
You're good.
It seems that kind of more slanted towards passing for the first few games. Just, is that a concerted effort, or is there a calculation before you go into a game?
Well, every game you always have an idea of what you think you want to do, and then you get in the game, you got to adjust to what's working and what's not working. But I think Coach Reed does such a great job since the day he started coaching of being able to really formulate how we want to win, start off that way, and then personnel-wise and whatever it is schematically. And if the run game's going, then we'll go ahead and get to that. If the pass game is going, it just so happens there's been a few more passes recently. I think if you know Coach Reed, that probably doesn't shock you, but that's who we are, and we want to be able to be balanced, and we got great players to be able to do both.
Well, and along those exact lines, I mean, against Jacksonville, first half you have 26 plays, 2 designed runs, 24 passes.
Sure.
Obviously that's more out of balance than you usually are. Do you get in a point in the game in a situation like that where you're looking like, okay, wait a minute, maybe we're not doing what I want to do here?
Well, I ran into this question before because those numbers happen, and sometimes in these offenses with RPOs, you might have a run called and the ball gets thrown, and so there might be some more run calls that are in the play calling, and so that's always one that jumps out to me when you have a glaring stat like that. But at the same point in time, to your referral, You want to do whatever you can do to get yards. And so if it is running and it's working, then you're going to go ahead and call more runs naturally, set it up with play actions and screens. But if it's throwing too, we got a pretty good quarterback, and we want the ball in his hands as well. So I don't think any of that was intentionally, to really answer your question. None of it was intentional. I think it's just kind of a little bit of a flow. And when you look back at those first, 5 series in the first half, 4 of them weren't very good. So you just try to get a rhythm. There was no rhythm for us really in that game offensively. So we got to get back to getting rhythm, and whether that is running the football or whatever, we got to just figure out a way to do that as coaches and players, and I think we will.
Last one, Nick.
Yeah, Matt, I know you've been able to venture out on a couple Friday nights and kind of take the game in as a fan. What's that been like for you, and do you kind of catch yourself sometimes being like the down distance coordinator mindset?
Yeah, probably way too much. My wife has to chill me out. I love it because it's my 4 boys, and all these times growing up, all these little youth baseball games, football, basketball, and now it's high school. It really counts, So it's been fun, but without a doubt, I definitely gotta just go up in the top corner, stay away, and just drink have some sunflower seeds and coffee, and just shut up and let them go play and go win, So that's it. But it's fun, and his coaching staff has been phenomenal. They're great guys, and they do a great job.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, there is offensive coordinator and football dad, Matt Nagy, there with his sunflower seeds and coffee in the corner of the stands, just trying to get through the game and not go down there and why aren't you calling this? Okay, you understand where this guy was supposed to be on this one over there? I mean, come on. That would be interesting. Is that intimidating if you're the high school coach of a player whose dad is the offensive coordinator of an NFL team?
Not if the coach is a Bears fan.
Matt, we got it. I got it from here. Okay, thank you.
That's awesome. That is a hilarious thing to have to be wondering about, looking over your shoulder like, Matt, if you sort of hold up a note card or something with a suggestion, I'm listening. I'm listening. How about we trade? You steal a play from us, we steal a play from you guys? All right, here we go.
We're running this thing called the annexation of Puerto Rico, and we feel like it's really working. I'd love to see you guys do that in the game. Just watch it, see how we're doing in practice, see how that works for you guys. Maybe against the Bears. That might be something you guys can do. Just go ahead and have a little fun.
And could we just borrow Isaiah Pacheco? I just think it would be the funniest person we could put on a high school football field.
No, Chris Jones.
I think Chris Jones might be sad to mean, honestly. I think Chris Jones might not be funny. It might just be hurtful and harmful.
Yeah, Chris, you actually have to play with one hand behind your back and in a potato sack that you have to jump. That's how you have to play. Chris Jones for the Blue Valley West ended up with 15 sacks in the game, playing with one hand and in a potato sack. And he didn't go up against Jawan Taylor. Here's Jawan Taylor.
Can you just walk us through just the whole game and before you got benched, just what was going through your head there?
A lot of highs and lows, definitely. But overall, I feel like my performance wasn't too bad, but the penalties definitely have to be cleaned up.
Did Coach Reed take you out? Did that help?
Yeah, definitely. Just a breather, just take me out for a couple plays for a breather, and just get back in and finish the game.
You and Andy had a discussion there on the sideline. What were you guys? Was he just telling you to settle down, or?
Yeah, just settle in. Clear your head, and then go back in and finish the game up.
When you have a game like that, I know you're a veteran, but mentally, where are you right now?
I'm fine mentally. I didn't let it get the best of me. I just wanted to go out there and just be my best and help my team win.
So how do you go about avoiding false starts and the up wrong and all that?
Definitely just been working on it this week to clean it up. Definitely know that's a problem that needs to be fixed. Good thing I have a great group of coaches around me to help me fix it. Also, just staying poised throughout the game and not, staying even keeled, not letting it get the best of me. But definitely working to fix it, and that's pretty much it.
It's a big topic on the broadcast and on social media during your guys' first game against the Lions. So the word was out, right?
Yeah.
When you're going into the game, is that thought in your head that they might be calling some of these things, and during the game, what happens? Did the officials come up and try to be a little preventative with you and say, hey, listen, you got to move up a little bit?
Yeah, sometimes they'll come to you in the pregame and talk to you about it, but throughout the game, that's not on my mind. On my mind is just winning and, doing my job, doing my part. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to hurt my team. So, you know, I just know I got to be better at it.
Was it hard to stay even keeled?
So
Was it hard to stay even keeled as things went on? And you mentioned that.
No, not hard at all. I always play poised, and you know, I just make sure I'm doing my job. You know, anything going on, noise around me, just you know, I just stay even keeled.
Were you aware of all that discussion from the Thursday night game?
I've been told about it for sure, but you know, definitely want to get it corrected and cleaned up. Like I said, I'm not here to hurt the team.
When you're in a quick step, how much work is there to be done just because you're with a new team, with the new center and the new cadence and all that? I mean, how do you go about practicing that without actually doing it in the game?
You know, just I started with it in OTAs and mini camp, then went into training camp with it, just getting better at it. You know, definitely not where I want to be at yet, but you know, just make sure I'm on the cadence and not early.
Do you feel like there's more of a spotlight on you because you're with the Chiefs and then other?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, but you know, because I was doing it in Jacksonville, but I'm just working to fix it now.
John, what do you think it says about you guys as a team that you can deal with that adversity during the game and still find a way to win the game in the end?
That just says our coaching, having a great group of coaches like that, you know, that keep us up throughout the week and let us know, like, you know, things happen, you know, but at the end of the day, we just got to go out there and get a win. So, you know, everybody knows that. So I feel like everybody plays with great poise.
Coach Nagy was just telling that, you know, last week was emphasis on drops, and this week is, you know, it's about the O-line and penalties and turnovers and things like that. As an offense, just how do y'all emphasize that amongst the players and working to get better?
We just know we got things to clean up and fix. We've been working on that in practice this week and making sure we're matching the intensity of the defense because the defense has been playing really well. So, you know, we definitely know it's different things we got to go work on and fix, and we're doing that.
Considering, you know, you've never played for a non-Florida team before, now you have kind of Jacksonville in the rearview mirror. Does that ease things as the rest of the season goes on? You say, okay, now I can just focus on this week-to-week thing because I'm sure that it stood out in a way.
Yeah, but definitely just making sure I'm staying focused week to week. You know, taking it 1 week at a time, not looking ahead, but just focusing on the opponent at hand, and that's Chicago Bears.
Just to clarify what you said, doing this in Jacksonville as well, do you feel like even doing this last week was pretty similar to the way that you were executing, like the pullback, the step back, and everything in Jacksonville?
Yeah. If you watch back the past 4 years, I did it in Jacksonville, but you know, definitely it's been seen more, so definitely got to fix it.
How hard is it to change up, like, you know, because you've been doing it for a while, so how hard is it?
It's not hard at all. You know, I definitely been working on it and make sure I'm getting better at it for sure.
So on the past block success numbers are pretty high for you. I think highest in the league this week. What do you think just about the other aspects of your game after the snap?
Just being my best. That's what I'm here to do, be my best for my team and make sure I'm out there just getting my job done. So, you know, I don't really look at numbers or what's going on around the league, whatever. I'm just worried about myself and doing my job.
So when you like take your game as a whole, what first enters your mind? The penalty stuff or the other stuff that went well?
Penalties for sure. That's first things first. I know that has to be cleaned up. Like coaches always say, nobody's worth a penalty. Nobody's too big to be worth a penalty. So make sure I'm fixing that and doing my job.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.
All right, there's Jawan Taylor. A lot of stuff to get into from that conversation and with Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, and we'll talk about a little bit of things we heard from that and the Jawan Taylor conversation. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WH.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. Coming up at 1 o'clock, we will play some Sports or Leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern. Todd Lebo today will be out at Johnny's Tavern in Lawrence from 4 to 6 p.m. And everyone who stops in will be registered to win a great grand prize and 2 tickets to see your hometown team play on Sunday. 913-912-4810, the text line. Juwan Taylor was very matter-of-fact. It's on me. I got to adjust. I got to get better. There's highs and lows of the game. Said the performance wasn't too bad, but he has to clean up the penalties. Working to clean it up. Has great coaches, but it's all about just getting better, doing what he has to do. But he has to adjust. Said, the spotlight on you with the Chiefs. Yeah, a little bit. I was doing the same thing in Jacksonville. But I need to adjust. And no, it's not going to be difficult to do. Just have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And then Sam McDowell asked him, you had a pretty good game outside of the penalties and pass blocking and everything, and no pressures allowed. What do you think of first, how well you played, or the penalties? And it's penalties first. Coaches say, nobody's worth a penalty. Which I disagree, because intentional grounding or Patrick Mahomes or something like that, I believe he's worth a penalty or 2 or 50. I'm perfectly fine with, it's an illegal forward pass. He was past the line of scrimmage. That's a penalty. Get his ass out of there. Blaine Gabbert, go in there. Nobody's worth a penalty.
If Patrick Mahomes wanted to have a ritual sacrifice at the 50 before every game, it would be worth it, I think, right?
Yeah. Nobody's worth a ritual sacrifice except for number 15.
Who is?
Yeah. So, look, nobody's worth a penalty. But he had one. Oh, cool. Is your name Patrick Lavon Mahomes? It's not? Okay.
If Patrick Mahomes demanded that one fan donate a finger before every game, Arrowhead there would be 500 people donating. It would be a problem. We would have to slow it down.
So Jimmy Johnson that told the Cowboys players when one of the running backs complained that, Emmitt Smith fumbled too. It's like, it's Emmitt Smith. I'm going to treat you fairly, but I won't treat you the same.
Which is probably a good coaching strategy.
The Jimmy Johnson scale was, if you're a really good player and you do everything right, you're at the top. And if you're a really bad player that does everything wrong, you're at the bottom. So that's how he treated everyone.
There you go.
That's exactly that scale.
I'll treat you fair to what your ability is and everything, but I'm not going to treat you the same because you're not Emmitt Smith. That's why you're benched when you fumble the football and released. He fumbles the football, but he's one of the
next carry.
Greatest running backs we've ever seen. He picked up 100 yards with a dislocated shoulder. Did you do that? No. Then shut up.
And obviously the alternative is that we let Troy Aikman throw the football. We can't let that happen.
He couldn't help himself there.
Luckily, it's like when I brought up LeBron earlier. Somebody had texted in and said, Dylan needs the Nate Bukaty soccer siren when Jason mentions LeBron.
Mine can definitely be Aikman. Yours can definitely be LeBron.
That's right. But I did appreciate Juwan Taylor was very matter-of-fact.
Yeah.
He was quick with his answers, but was also, it's on me. I got to adjust. I got to get better. Working on it. I got to adjust. I got to do it. It's not hard. I got to do it.
And what else could he possibly say to make us any happier? I do think I'm really glad that there was the following up and kind of picking at the scab of, yeah, but you've been doing this, right? Like you have been doing this. This has been your whole career, and now you're in Kansas City. Is it a little different now? And him going, yeah, a little bit. I was doing it in Jacksonville. Nobody said bleep, but I mean, it really. Here's the actual quote without me editorializing. A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I was doing it in Jacksonville, but I'm just working to fix it now.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted to hear from Juwan Taylor. It's
great.
Because I did really want to know if he does feel like it's being judged differently now, which to us it seems like it is. He also acknowledges that. But you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and hope that the refs are going to start calling it differently. You've got to at least put some effort into it. And maybe that's the middle ground of kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the show of I think the NFL is going to zoom out a smidge, but also this has been a coaching point all week for Juwan Taylor. It's going to be something that he has to emphasize. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Where if the refs are saying, all right, you're lined up properly, if you move in perfect synchronicity with the snap, we're not going to be staring down the line for that specific infraction. Maybe there's a little bit of give and take there that smooths this out over the next few weeks.
And I think there's got to be that fine line of work on it without it being your entire life. Yep. Without it being everything you're focusing on and thinking about is on the snap count or adjusting the cadence or adjusting your get off to the cadence with Patrick Mahomes, whether that be the silent count or an actual verbal count that, Mahomes even said he got a little aggressive in going more verbal account on the road, verbal count and cadence on the road rather than the silent count. But that fine line of, speaking of Mahomes, of, hey, we can dial this back to clean this thing up while also not taking away what's special about you to let you have free reign and go and do some of those things where Jawaan Taylor, we got to work on this and adjusting this and be better here without it being the only thing we talk about and focusing on it to where it becomes your entire mind is that you're still a phenomenal player and one hell of a pass blocker. This needs to be fixed. Let's work on that. But here's the game plan for this week, and here's what we're doing. And this is who you're going up against. This is the defense. This is what we're going to be doing. All of that stuff that has to be your general week by week daily grind. Without it being all-encompassing that he's sleeping and dreaming about it of jumping or false starting.
And he had a couple of little redundancies, and I guess not redundancies, but oxymorons or sort of self-disagreements where he talked about how important it is to stay poised, but then he said it's easy to stay poised, and he always does. It's there's... and it's just a dude at a presser. I'm not actually trying to. This isn't a congressman. Yeah, I know. I'm not worried about him.
Juwan.
I'm not cross-examining him.
Juwan, I want to go back to something. You said that you needed to keep your poise.
Yeah.
You said you had to come out with a breather. Yet you just said you always keep your poise. Which one is right?
Juwan, you said that the little benching helped you get a breather and settle down, but then you said you didn't let it get the best of you.
Which one's the truth?
And in reality, because I know how I sound, and the reason that I'm shining a light on both of those things is because I actually think it's all true. I think they're both true statements. I don't think Jawaan Taylor was in his own head in the huddle because in one of those quotes also he said, I'm not thinking about that in the game, which makes sense if you've ever heard a play call, even for a lineman. And you have to be, analyzing the defense in front of you and then figuring out the communication with your guys next to you and what's about to happen over the course of this play. So much stuff gets slammed into that tiny little pocket of time that for us is just usually watching the play clock tick down. It's like, all right, guys, whenever you're ready here. And in reality, that's when the chess match is happening, right? All that to say, I think everything he said there is worth taking at more or less face value, but it's going to be a fascinating arc, and I think we heard him say the things we needed to hear him say today.
Couple small nuggets with Nagy, and then Spagnuolo was really
so good, man.
There was so much goodness with Steve Spagnuolo. The answer to the first question to Matt Nagy about playing Chicago, and saying it's not about that. It's a year and a half ago. When I wrote it down, I started next to when he said the next thing, and now rereading it, I wonder if it means something different. He said that was a year and a half ago, being back home and going through some other things. When I wrote it down, I thought, oh, wow, is he now saying Kansas City is home for him?
That's how I heard it.
Now I'm wondering if, no, I went to Chicago in the preseason. Now we're playing back home. We're not playing in Chicago this time. So now being back home, as opposed to, hey, you're playing the Chicago Bears. Yeah, last preseason it was in Chicago. I kind of went through that. Being back home. But the being back home was...
His last answer reflects being back home also, though, because his kid's not playing high school football in Chicago.
Right, yeah. That's which would be weird. That's one hell of a travel if he commute to try to get there and back on Fridays. But I wrote it down as if oh, wow, Matt Nagy says being back home, that even when he was in Chicago, home still felt like it was Kansas City. But then I'm wondering, did he mean being back home as in yeah, I'm not really worried about the fact that we're playing the Bears because...
It might have been. I took it as a home thing also.
That's how I read it first. Time through. Then when I read it again, I'm like, oh, wait, maybe he was talking about that. But, and also the run-pass disparity when he says, there are RPOs in there. And we call an RPO, which is part of the run game. And sometimes it's not a handoff and it's a quick pass. But it's also part of the run game. So in our mind, that's kind of a running play too. But also saying that when you get into that disparity, sometimes you can call specific run plays. But his point about it wasn't intentional. It was the flow of the game, and there wasn't much rhythm going on. There were negative plays. And you know what? After Kadarius Toney fumbles the ball on what could have been an RPO or a quick part of the running game and get it out to Kadarius Toney, some blockers, and have him pick up 5, 6, 7 yards or whatever, an extension of the running game that we see with offenses in the NFL all the time. And he fumbles the football and loses 11 yards. 2nd and 21 ain't a handoff to Pacheco with this offense. So those 3 plays, you go, wow, 3 and out. They didn't hand the ball off again. Well, they didn't, but if Kadarius Toney picks up 6 yards on that play, and it's 2nd and 4. Maybe they do hand the ball off, and they pick up 5-6 yards. They're like, okay, now they're in the rhythm. They're throwing the ball to the outside. They're running it right at them. Maybe they're hitting it 20 yards down the field. So, yeah, that rhythm part is interesting. And also, when you do hand off, you're taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hand, too. So there's that part.
The RPO thing I thought was the single most fun, interesting conversation topic at a Nagy's presser, because the number of times and during a game where you'll see on Twitter, 500 people going, "Run the ball, Andy." you might need to amend that and say, "Hand it off, Patrick." And then what you're actually saying is, even though you're reading the defense in a way that indicates that the pass option here is going to be the advantageous one, I still want you to hand it off anyway, despite how you're reading the defense. Now you feel silly, because that's a silly thing to ask Patrick Mahomes to do. It's a fun little twist on the way we talk about this.
The only time I've ever watched a game and went, hand the freaking ball off, Patrick. Why are you just give it to the running back on the RPO. Second half against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Because the interception to B.J. Hill, I still I would love to sit in a room with Andy Reid or whoever and say, take me through this play. What should have happened? I believe that was an RPO that everybody on the field except Patrick Mahomes expected it to be a run.
Yeah.
Because the offensive line, on the right side of the offensive line, and the right side of the field, the wide receivers really didn't do much, and the offensive line was getting to the second level. When Mahomes was rolling to the left, the offensive lineman didn't know that. They were getting to the second level because I'm guaranteed they read that as, holy bleep, look at this front.
Yeah.
We're about to pick up a lot of yards on this run play, and Mahomes pulled it. And then there was everybody in coverage. And then he tried to force it in there, where I think if he just hands it off to McKinnon, it might be like an 11, 12-yard gain. And I'm like, okay, well, now that happened, he's definitely going to just get back into a rhythm and just – but it didn't really – it's the only time I've ever been like, just stop calling RPOs, take it out of his hands, all right? You are killing them running the football. You're doing nothing passing the ball. Just run it down their throat. Didn't happen. And again, it's the one time I've ever watched it and went, Mahomes just doesn't have it right now. I have never seen him play like that. And those things happen even for, aliens sometimes. We'll take a time out. I want to talk about the defense. There's a lot of stuff to get into with the defense because they have been playing phenomenal football. And I love the fact that Spagnuolo was just like, well, I mean, are we ahead of where I thought? Well, don't really think we need to be at a certain spot. It's just every week we've got to improve on what we did the week before. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got Sports or Leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com.
All right, wrapping up this hour, play a little sports or leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-381-810-810 is the phone number, 913-381-810 to play some sports or leisure. We'll tell you the categories and everything with that. Also, a little NFL news to pass along. Old friend alert. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif has announced his retirement today. So LDT retiring from football. And Joe Burrow listed as day-to-day, limited in practice today, and he will be day-to-day until they play on Monday night. They get an extra day of rest, doubleheader Monday night coming up, facing off against the Rams at home. So those are the two little updates from the last hour or so in the NFL. LDT calling it a career. We call it sports or leisure next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
There are few things more wonderful in life than intimacy.
relax. It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, time for a little sports or leisure. This Thursday edition of the show. 913-3810810 is the phone number to play some sports or leisure, presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 to Johnny's Tavern will be given away for those that get a sports question and a leisure question correct. You win $25 to Johnny's Tavern. You could use that at Johnny's Tavern in North Lawrence today from 4 to 6 p.m. The location, 401 North 2nd in Lawrence. And everyone who stops by and hangs out with Todd Lebo, you can just stop by. I don't think you have to hang out with them. But everybody who stops by while Todd Lebo is there will be registered to win a great grand prize, a couple of tickets to see your hometown team play this weekend. And all you got to do is show up at Johnny's Tavern there in Lawrence, 401 North 2nd. Also giving away some branded Travis Kelce Chiefs cooler. So how about that? There at Johnny's Tavern. So Todd Lebo there, North Lawrence, today from 4 to 6, 913-3810810, playing some sports or leisure right now. Here's how you play. You give us a call. You get a sports question. You get a leisure question. You get them both right. You win. If you get either of them wrong, you lose, but the question is out there available for someone to call in and request if they know the answer to that. We give out the answers when somebody answers it correctly, or we have just simply run out of time. So if somebody gets a question, does not answer it correctly, we don't immediately give the right answer. If somebody answers it correctly, then that's the right answer. If not, we're running out of time. We'll let you know what the answer was. Let's go through the categories for today's sports or leisure. As I will eventually find found it. I should check right in front of me.
Well, look, I mean, you got a lot of papers, a lot of screens. You haven't even knocked your coffee over today. I mean, you've been great.
See, now you said that, so
I said that it was like
come
a little, just a helpful little.
That one will spill.
That one will.
The other one, not necessarily.
As long as it looks close.
Still got a couple of questions left from the Go UDFA yourself.
Excellent.
Still have some Chiefs openers. Have one question from just a guy who also played for the Chief. That was the Jags and Chiefs. Went through that category last week and pretty much knocked everyone out except for one. We have a new category called Barely Regal. Those that played for the Bears and, Regal Chiefs. Bears and Chiefs. And then we have a couple of NFL questions. So go UDFA yourself. Chiefs openers, just a guy who also played for the Chiefs, Barely Regal, and NFL.
On the leisure side, we have what could an IMDb TV? I'll give you the description of an IMDb description of a TV show. You'll tell me what the show is. We have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an MCU question. We have Get Swifty, just trivia about Taylor Swift. I might even give you some multiple choices. And then my new category, Barely Hanging On.
Shut up.
Just question about mostly fictional bears throughout books, TV, movies, etc.
Okay.
But Barely Hanging On and Barely Regal.
Okay.
I know that after our AFC Power Rankings, no one's
Bearing
going
it
to believe
all.
this, but we really don't share notes on every single thing that we do. Sometimes it's just beautiful
In fact,
minds.
we never talk.
We don't speak, actually.
I see Josh 10 o'clock on weekdays.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I talked to him about, what we're going to talk about that day. And then at 2 o'clock, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll leave via the balcony just so there's no threat, even that we're going to have to talk in the hallway.
Yeah,
I had to block your number, which I imagine you figured out because I just could not deal with the text messages.
It's weird that you would block my number. I don't even know what yours is, so
That,
I
for
didn't
the
have
best.
to block it.
I did have to change it a few times. Look, if there's anything you need to say to me, you can say it between 10 and 2. That's what I always say.
No, I'd rather just keep it to myself and be passive-aggressive when you're not around.
Oh, no. Hold on, we need to unpack. That sounded pretty familiar to me. That sounded like something that I've been working on, just in general. Passive aggressiveness. Is this an intervention?
Maybe.
I need the help.
Maybe. Everybody just gather around. Where's Lebo? Oh, he's heading to Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not till 4 o'clock, so 4 to 6 is when he'll be there. 913-3810810. I am ready to play. Josh, you good to go?
I'm barely ready to go, but I'm ready to go. Dylan, you ready to go?
Sure.
All right.
Every week he has gotten a little more
I know,
sad.
it's
perfect.
great.
You're doing great, Dylan.
One day I think he's going to actually feel the way he will sound.
I think today might have been it. I don't know. That was a great line delivery, if not, Dylan.
Nope. I don't think we've broken him yet. He's getting there.
Give us time.
It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better.
Not there yet.
I like that. That's about Dylan now. That's a good evolution for that,
right.
that audio.
Just about whoever sits in that chair. All right, let's get started here. We bring in Charles leading us off here on Sports or Leisure. Charles, what side would you like to start with?
Let's do some leisure.
What category?
The bear one.
Let's go. We're barely hanging on. One of my bear necessities is going to Johnny's Tavern, but this famous singing bear is actually a sloth bear, which I learned today.
Whoa.
Name that bear, and you can forget about your worries and your strife.
That's right.
So the Jungle Book bear.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
That would be Baloo.
Baloo is correct.
Baloo.
No worries or strife here.
I had a friend in school that last name was Baloo, but the teacher kept calling him Baloo. Like every single day was a gym class. Every single time we had gym, it was like Baloo, Baloo. Like it was like every on freaking schedule every time. Anderson, Baloo. It's Baloo.
He should have started scratching his back on like a basketball post, you know?
Right, yes.
Maybe you would have figured it out.
You know, just dress up as the bear. You'll be fine.
That'd be great.
On to the sports side. What you thinking, Charles?
Let's do the bear one.
All right,
Yeah.
Barely Regal. Was he drafted as a long snapper or a defensive end? Doesn't matter because he'll be a Hall of Famer. Chiefs lassoed this player in the 4th round out of Idaho State, racking up 43 sacks before being traded.
Long snapper or what?
Was he drafted as a long snapper or a defensive end? It doesn't matter because he's going to be a Hall of Famer. They lassoed him in the 4th round out of Idaho State. 43 sacks before being traded.
43 snaps.
That's a good one.
You like it?
I do.
Good. Glad. Wonderful. I wasn't going to ask you at 2 o'clock.
Well, let me see.
You know, he's recently in another team's Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor. I think last year, maybe.
I completely forgot his final team that I don't want to
Didn't he get traded to the Vikings?
Yeah, he did. He's in the Ring of Honor.
Jared Allen.
Yeah, Jared Allen.
There you
Yeah,
go.
he's in the Ring of Honor with the Vikings. He's got like almost 90 sacks in his career with the Vikings.
Wow.
Then he was a Bear. Where did he end up?
He split his 2015 season, 12 games in Chicago, or excuse me, 3 games in Chicago, 12 in Carolina.
I didn't even know he went to Chicago. Wow.
Yeah.
That one you could be forgiven for forgetting about because
Yeah.
Chiefs to Minnesota makes sense, but Carolina completely left my memory.
There you go.
Wild.
Jared Allen, and that is a winner for Charles. Well done. We'll put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, Charles.
That's a bear win.
It sure is. That sure is.
We are just bearing it all here in this hour.
Beautiful.
Not sure we need to. 913-3-810-810. To the phone lines we go, and Sean is next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sean, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
I want to start with sports.
All right, sports, what category?
I'm going to continue the bear.
All right, Barely Regal.
It's the best category name you've ever had.
Go with, let's go with this one. He was undrafted out of Iowa and caught on in Chicago as a Bear before becoming the centerpiece of the most dominant offensive line in Chiefs history. Played 7 years with the Chiefs, and his 16 years in the NFL and over 11,000 consecutive snaps made him an NFL survivor.
Repeat that last part, the last sentence.
Yes, played 7 years with the Chiefs, and his 16 years in the NFL and over 11,000 consecutive snaps made him an NFL survivor.
That's Casey Wiggins.
Yeah, it is Casey Wiggins. Nice job. It is,
Man, if you got
Casey
it wrong, I was going to let Jason hang up on you and tell you the tribe had spoken. I was so ready for that.
That's right.
I'm a little annoyed you got it right.
Well, it's fine. Over to Josh with the leisure, Sean.
I'm just going to keep on rolling. Let's do the Bears.
Let's keep on rolling. This family of furry folks is best known from their beloved series of children's books that have been published since 1962. In more recent years, though, confusion about how they spell their name has led to some conversations about the Mandela effect.
Layup.
Is it?
I think it is.
I thought Baloo was a bigger layup.
No, I think this is the biggest layup of them all.
So what do I need? What do I need to do?
The
name of the family.
This family of furry folks. I need the name of them. It's also the name of their deal, of their whole thing.
The whole.
Okay, so Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Oh no!
No, barely
Sean,
missed it. Unfortunately,
damn
Sean,
it.
the tribe has spoken.
Sean, damn it! Thank you for playing, man. Appreciate it. 913-381-0810.
I don't think I can say the tribe has spoken. I can say that was barely off track.
I don't think you can say that.
I don't think I should say that.
No, not at all. Let's go to Avery next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. A little sports or leisure. 25 to Johnny's Tavern. Avery, what side would you like to start with? The sports or the leisure?
You guys saw that Berenstain Bears?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, we sure do.
No, we have the Berenstain Bears.
I really thought it was spelled differently, but yes,
Stain.
the Berenstain Bears is the answer to the question I just read. I'll save you all of me reading it a third time.
Okay, great. On to sports, Avery.
I guess let's keep it barely legal.
Barely? Let's do that. Let's keep it barely legal if we can.
Barely regal, man.
Barely regal.
That's right.
It's a triple entendre.
Barely regal. Players that played for the Bears and the Chiefs. Still playing in the NFL. He played 4 years for the Chiefs. First Brazilian-born player in the NFL. Scored 392 points for the Chiefs. He also helped make the number 15 famous in Kansas City and across the league.
Cairo Santos?
I mean, that sounds like a question, not an answer.
Is Cairo Santos Brazilian? I'll say Cairo Santos.
Cairo Santos is right. Cairo Santos, correct for the barely regal. He is still the kicker for the Chicago Bears right now, so he'll be back this weekend.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. Maybe he can exchange jerseys with Patrick. I don't know.
Wow.
That'd be cool. All right, Avery, we'll put you on hold and get your information if Dylan doesn't already have it in his phone.
Super duper.
There's another winner. Yes, Cairo Santos. Is he wearing number 5 with the Bears?
I was thinking the same thing. I don't know.
I shouldn't say I'm pretty sure he is because I'm not sure at all. He could be wearing number 95. And
it looks like he might be wearing number 8 most recently.
8? Okay.
Why couldn't he wear an 8 in Kansas City? Was somebody else wearing 8 at the time?
He's wearing number 8.
He wore 5 in Kansas City and 5 for 1 year in Tampa Bay. But he's had different numbers every year other than that.
Yeah, Tennessee, he wore number 7. The Rams, he wore number 3. And Chicago, for the past 3 years, he has worn number 2. Now he's wearing number 8. Is DJ Moore number 2? Is that why he had to give up number 2?
I think
DJ
that
Moore
might
probably
be right.
bought that from him. I think DJ Moore is.
Do you know what number he wore in college? Because I was trying to think, why did he end up here? At Tulane, he was wearing an incredibly clunky 19. It just doesn't look good. The numbers are too big. The word Tulane is too big. He's not an enormous fella by, football player scales, so.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
You're in high school.
Yeah, DJ Moore's number 2. Yep, DJ Moore number 2. And so, you're going to have to come off that number 2 there, Cairo. How about that? DJ Moore putting his foot down to get his number more than Patrick Mahomes did to get that number 5. Mahomes was like, just go to 15. Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not going to really push my weight around. What do I look like? DJ Moore here? I mean, come on.
Now I need to figure out who was wearing number 19 for the 2014 Chiefs, because they might also get some credit here. If 19 was available, maybe he would have kept his college number. Or maybe he wanted to go to single digits. I don't know. He could have looked anything other than 5.
Well, now I'm going to look that up right now.
Yeah, I think we have to.
What year was that?
2014 Chiefs.
Okay, 2014.
Who had numbers that Cairo Santos wouldn't or couldn't take?
Number 9. Engine, number 9 on the New York Transit line.
Colquitt was still punting, obviously, so he was 2.
The
That was 1 single
train
digit.
falls off the tracks.
No one else had single digits. He could have picked any other number other than 2. No one was 19.
There's number 9.
There's no 9 and 19. I mean, it is 2, 5, and then Alex Smith at 11.
Yeah. How about that? By the way, pick it up. 913-381-0810. Let's
I'm
go
even more
to,
annoyed. Mahomes should be wearing 5.
Ronnie next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ronnie, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
What were the leisure ones again?
We have what could an IMDb TV, the IMDb description of a TV show, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Taylor Swift trivia, and barely hanging on.
Let's do something Chiefs, I guess.
I can give you the closest I can get to starting you with Chiefs on the leisure side is, well, not really nothing.
Nothing left?
If you want the sports first, start with Jason.
Wasn't it opening day or something?
That's on the
start
sports
with Jason
side,
on the sports side, and then you can pick up the
sorry.
leisure.
That's what I meant. Yeah, no,
You're good.
I was going to retreat. I didn't like the leisure side.
No, you're good. So we have a couple of different Chiefs categories. So we have Go UDFA Yourself, which are players that were undrafted or were cut during training camp and then became household names in Chiefs history. We have Chiefs openers. We have just a guy who also played for the Chiefs, which is a Jag and a Chief. And then we have Barely Regal, Bears and Chiefs.
Let's do UFDA.
Okay, Go UFDA Yourself. Let's see. He was undrafted and signed by the Chiefs as a punter. He asked Marv Levy if he could switch to defensive back. Levy okayed the switch, but this player was still cut before the season. It wasn't until a defensive back for the Chiefs got injured and they called him back and gave him a shot. Luckily, they did. 6-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, member of the 80s All-Decade Team, Chiefs Hall of Famer, recipient of the Man of the Year award in the NFL. He would finish his career with 50 interceptions, 4 of which came in one game. One hell of a model American. I was on Sunday Sound Off with him, hung out with him on the Tuesday at Hollywood Casino, and then saw him on Sunday out at County Road Ice House before the Dave Chappelle show. All of that should be hints for you.
You should know who that is now.
Ronnie.
Sorry, man. I didn't follow till like 92-ish.
Oh, you're fine.
I didn't know the punter story.
So he was undrafted and signed by the Chiefs as a punter.
He never played for Marty, did he? There's no way I'm going to know this guy.
I mean, you would know him.
But you might not know the lore, so that's all right.
I didn't know some of the. I knew he was a punter in college. Yeah, he played a couple years with Marty. Yeah, actually ended up playing the last 3 years of his career with Marty. Yep.
Maybe
Ring
throw
of Honor?
Who was that?
He's asked if he's in the Ring of Honor.
Oh, he's a Chiefs Hall of Famer for sure. Yep, 50 interceptions for the Chiefs. Asked to play defensive back. Marv Levy.
That would be. So it's not Justin Reed. I'm not guessing that. Just going to rule that one out.
Yes.
I guess
he's
the only dart I could throw on that would be Deron Cherry.
It is Deron Cherry.
I had no idea about
correct.
the.
I didn't think he was that old. I thought he was. I guess he did only play. He wasn't all of Marty's last year, so maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, just the first 3 years of Marty because he was a member of the 80s All-Decade Team. And at Rutgers, he was a punter and defensive back, and so he signed as an undrafted free agent by the Chiefs as a punter.
Wild.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Magooed my way through that.
Yes, there we go. That's fine. Yes, absolutely. So
what was the Bear category you said on the other one?
So being on Sunday Sound Off and me seeing him at County Road Ice House did not help you at all. Okay, I got it.
No, I.
Okay, great.
I forgot about all
don't
that.
give my personal anecdotes that I see somebody out as a hint. Noted.
I think you should still.
Noted.
The barely hanging on category is I'll give you one from here that I think is kind of a general knowledge thing you might have that's in the bear category, because Leonardo DiCaprio finally won an Oscar after being mauled by a bear on the big screen in this well-reviewed movie that seems kind of miserable, so I haven't seen it.
You've never seen it?
So it's
interesting. I mean, I think the bear should have won the Oscar or whatever.
Seriously.
The real star of the show.
So not Cliffhanger. Okay. The Revenant.
The Revenant is correct! Look at that! You worked your way through it!
Now I want Leo to star in Cliffhanger Part 2.
I think that would be great.
With Sylvester Stallone.
Has he gotten a second Oscar yet? If not, hello, Leo.
Or Ace Ventura 3, where he lets go of the bear.
That's exactly. Yes, that's right. The raccoon. He drops the raccoon. No, hold on. Slipping. He's slipping.
I didn't know there was a raccoon in that movie. Now I got to see it.
Not for very long.
All right. Thank you for the hints I didn't use.
Ronnie will put you on hold. Congratulations.
It's a good win for Ronnie.
That is right. 913-381-810. Which, by the way, on the movie Cliffhanger.
I can't wait.
Now, hey, we'll take a break because that's a cliffhanger. No,
Ooh, that's good. But now I'm dying to know your take.
I am not going to keep it out there like that. One thing that has always bothered me about that is, Michael Rooker, who was the mountain climber rescue guy with Sylvester Stallone.
Hal Tucker.
Yeah. It starts with like his fiance or whatever that gets stuck up there, and then Sylvester Stallone is trying to help or whatever. This guy takes an untrained climber that high. He gets stuck himself, whose entire job is climbing. Sylvester Stallone has to come and bail them out. Stallone then is trying to save her. The belt snapped. Spoiler alert! But it's just it's the beginning of the movie. This isn't the
It came out in 1983. I'm not too worried about it.
The music tells you what's going to happen in the background. Okay, the score is telling you it's not going to be great for this lady. Okay,
this movie's been out longer than I have.
Yes, this movie came out before Josh. And he blames Sylvester Stallone for everything. Hates him. Doesn't want to be, blames him. Sylvester Stallone blames himself. This guy, like, you took her up. Also, why can't you save her?
Yeah, expert.
Not Stallone's fault that the belt snapped. You know how she wouldn't have fallen that far to her demise? Is if you didn't take her up there, you jackass.
No kidding.
God, I hate that guy. Hal Tucker can go right to hell. Okay?
So Stallone's character's name is Gabe Walker?
I have no idea what his name is in that movie. I just know him as Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger.
Great point.
I just know him as badass.
Totally fair. I'm telling you, his name is Gabe Walker. It's not Gabe Climber. He shouldn't have been there. He should have known. His last name is Walker. Stay on the ground, Gabe.
No, but he's amazing, though. Sylvester Stallone's the man.
They should have changed his name to Gabe Climber.
Yeah, because John Lithgow is just a terrible person in that movie. Awful. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. Playing a little sports or leisure. 913-381-810 is the phone number to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. 913-381-810 to play some sports or leisure. Let's go through the categories real quick to give you an update on those if you are just tuning in. We've got on the sports side, go UDFA yourself. One more of those. We got Chiefs openers. We've got just a guy who also played for the Chiefs. It's Jags and Chiefs. We got Barely Regal, Chiefs and Bears players, and just an NFL category. What about you over there?
We're still barely hanging on. We got some questions about some famous Bears. We can get Swifty, some Taylor Swift trivia in honor of Travis Kelce, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some MCU questions, and what could it IMDb TV? Give you the synopsis of a TV show from IMDb. You tell me the name of the show.
Very good. 913-381-810. We go to Ed next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ed, sports or leisure? What side would you like to start with, sir?
Yeah, let's go with leisure.
And what category?
What was it, Barely Hanging On? Is that what it's called?
Barely Hanging On. This bear is the one on this list who most certainly was not originally aimed at children. Apparently, as I learned today, he was the star of what was the highest grossing live-action comedy of all time. That part's not important if it's even true. I just was surprised. What is important is that you don't leave this bear alone with your kids.
Yeah, that's the one with, what's it? Ted. That's
nice.
Absolutely is, Ted. That's a winner on the leisure side, but you got to get the sports side.
That's right. On to the sports side, sir. What are you thinking for a category, Ed?
Let's go NFL.
All right, NFL for you. Let's do this one. Nick Chubb, one of 5 players in NFL history with at least 8 rushing touchdowns in each of his first 5 seasons. Name one of the other 4 players to have 8 rushing touchdowns in each of their first 5 NFL seasons. All of them retired.
Okay.
3 of the 4 are Hall of Famers.
Okay.
And 2 of the 4 did all of their damage since the turn of the century. So since 2000.
Oh, since the turn of the century.
Yeah, 2 of them have
3
done
of the
that.
4 did?
Yeah, 2 of the 4 have done
Okay.
that. One of them was a '90s player, and the other one was more of an old timer.
Okay. I think I know the '90s player. Was he a Ram?
He was not actually.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Dickerson, but okay.
No, it was not
All
a
right,
Ram. It was an NFC player though.
Was an NFC player.
Mhm.
Well, we're playing the Bears this weekend. How about?
That's also
Walter
not a bear.
Payton?
Not a bear.
Didn't
Nope.
mean Walter Payton.
I know you didn't.
Nope.
I know you didn't. No, I know that.
Same conference though, or same? I'm sorry, same division?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. All right. Let's see.
He was asking if he ever won a Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Just throwing some names.
You know what?
no.
I don't know that he
Wouldn't know that.
did.
No, I don't
do
know. I
that.
just-
I don't know if any of these guys did.
I don't know when that award.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of them earned a nickname in his career, or at least initials that you typically would not get because of a player who already had those initials in NFL history. That it's like, wow, you're that good that you can also go by those initials.
Not O.J. Anderson, is
No,
it?
nope.
O.J. Anderson?
Nobody wants to go by those. No. Another one, Todd Lebo would hang out with. Maybe not around
that
kids,
doesn't
but
help. That doesn't help.
okay. Want to throw a dart as to any of the 4?
Any of the 4.
Come on.
Yeah, you got me on that. Let me just throw out a name then and just say, let's see, he's not from the NFC Central, because I was going to say Barry Sanders, but that wouldn't be right.
Nope.
Thurman Thomas.
Oh, damn it. Not Thurman Thomas. Ed, thank you for playing, man. I really appreciate it. You're the man. Appreciate it, Ed. Thank you so much. 913-381-810.
I didn't even mean to ask Ed the Ted question.
Ted.
Yeah,
Ed.
that was kind of fun.
Very good.
I almost said one of the answers for that question just there.
Yeah, no, there
But I'm
isn't.
not
None of these running backs.
One of them's
would
a
have
real
the,
slant rhyme. It would be tough. It wasn't a good answer for me.
Let's go to Shane next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Shane, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Start with leisure, please.
Which category?
I want to do the barely hanging on.
The Chicago Bears will be looking to cover 100 yards of football field against the Chiefs, but that's nothing. This bear covers 100 acres.
Is he in a? He's in a national park, eh?
Ooh, actually,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Maybe,
Wow.
but
I
also
don't know.
maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's not. It's a name. It's a made up name.
I might be really specifically going for the 100 acres. That part might be specific.
Oh yeah, okay. So that would probably be the 100 Acre Woods. That would be Winnie the Pooh.
Indeed, it would. Good work. That's a win.
Nice job. So in the middle of that, I'm laughing because ESPN is showing video of Joe Burrow walking out to practice, and somebody sort of starts to reach their hand out, and Joe Burrow looks at him and goes to fist bump. But as he's reaching to fist bump, the other person turns around. So then Joe Burrow fist bumps. The guy's not looking, and then he just fist bumps his other hand. Joe Burrow takes it together and gives himself a fist bump. Like, oh, it's... not a big Joe Burrow fan. It's as cool as you've ever seen somebody get left hanging before. Just like, just go ahead and fist bump myself and keep it moving. On to the sports side, sir. We've got, go UDFA yourself. Chiefs opener is just a guy, barely regal in NFL.
Yeah, that wasn't very Joe Cool Burrow, I would No, so I want to go ahead and I think that question is sitting out there from the last caller.
Yeah, what do you think? Is Nick Chubb one of 5 players in NFL history with at least 8 rushing touchdowns in each of his first 5 seasons? Name any of the other 4.
That's my ideas, but I'm pretty sure on one of them, since according to your hints. So I didn't like this guy. Didn't want to see him do well. But was it Terrell Davis?
Oh no!
What?
No.
Oh!
Were you thinking of TD, like Terrell Davis? TD, the initials. Damn it!
Oh man!
It was not Terrell Davis, but that would make sense.
Look, sometimes it's always heartbreaking, but sometimes a loss at the buzzer is just as thrilling as a win. Thanks for helping us keep it interesting.
Yes, Shane, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother. Oh man, I gotta look up and.
I thought your hint was perfect crosshairs, and oh man, Shane's gonna be so mad when he gets the answer on that one.
So
we thought he had it.
First 5 NFL seasons. Terrell Davis's first 5 NFL seasons, he rushed for 7 touchdowns. It needs at least 8, but 7, 13, 15, 21. And then he got injured and rushed for 2.
Okay.
So
bookending wouldn't have made it.
But even bookending, because it was only 7 his rookie year. But at least if he could disperse those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he had, 60 in his first 5 years?
Pretty good.
Averaging more than 8, but 7, 13, 15, 21, and 2 for Terrell Davis. But yeah, that would be bursting onto the scene and rushing for 1,200 yards, then 1,500, then 1,700, then 2,000 yards and 21 touchdowns in 98. 2,000 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns. God, I wish he was on my fantasy team that year.
I don't want to give the answer of that one away.
I know he wasn't because I didn't win it that year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's go. And I remember the years I won it and didn't win it because I haven't won one. So it's all luck. Fantasy football's all luck. Let's go to
it's a loser talk right there.
I've lost a lot of Super Bowls in fantasy. I am the Bills and Bengals and throwing you out there of losing Super Bowls, baby. Tim, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with?
I'll take that question earlier that Josh had about the bear and the children's book family.
That got answered.
That did get Avery swooped right in and got that one right away.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll take barely hanging on.
Okay, this British bear also debuted in a children's book, but now he's the title character of not 1 but 2 critically acclaimed movies that have earned praise for being amongst the best crossover kids movies in recent years. He's also named after a London Underground station.
Paddington Bear.
Boom! Nice Paddington is the answer.
Well done.
You didn't need the Berenstain Bears. You had Paddington ready to go.
That's right. On to the sports side, sir. What category are you thinking?
IMDb, if that's still available.
That's on the leisure side. So.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, sports. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Go UDFA yourself.
You jerk. All right.
That was good delivery.
I couldn't remember if I asked this one or not. So if I did, hey, great. If not, even great too.
If it's Chris Conley, we did it last week.
It was. I did eliminate Chris Conley, but undrafted out of North Texas, he was signed as a tight end by the Cowboys. He didn't make it to final cutdown that preseason before he was released. The Chiefs signed him to a futures contract in December and wanted to convert him to offensive line. So they sent him to NFL Europe to learn the position. He came back a 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and Walter Payton Man of the Year winner. He's now a Chiefs Hall of Famer. And, man, he was as durable as they came.
Yeah, it's I know who you're trying to say. The names are coming to me. I'm trying to think.
You'll get it.
Went to NFL Europe.
Yep, was a tight end. Yep, out of North Texas, and they moved him to the offensive line, and he was part of that most dominant offensive line in Chiefs history that had some Hall of Famers on it.
Oh gosh.
And man, I mean, he and Will Shield just never. They played every single snap. I mean, it was all the time. I know you got it. Come on, just drink some water and you'll get it.
Yeah, he was right next to him.
Yep. Just if you're parched and maybe just drink some waters and drink some waters and you'll be fine.
Brian Waters?
Yeah, right. Hey, you got it. All right. Nice job. Brian Waters is correct. I bet you were going
He was a tight end in college?
Yeah. And then they sent him to they signed him as a futures contract in December and said, "Hey, by the way, let's try to move you to offensive line. You've never played it, but let's see what you can do. We'll send you to NFL Europe to learn the position." And then he became Brian Waters on the offensive line.
Loved Brian Waters.
Yeah,
I had no idea that. I got to find some college highlights or something. Do those exist?
I mean, I think. I don't know.
I'm looking now.
Not sure. I mean, he played in the 90s, so, I mean, the internet wasn't around really back then as much as it is now. I mean, phones were, not just computers that we could also make phone calls on. But we will also get Tim's information. Tim, we'll put you on hold. Congratulations, man.
NYZ.
ZOU. About that, he went to North Texas. He's mean green. We need to take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling with some more Sports or Leisure next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Let's get to some more sports or leisure as we wrap things up here. Matt, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Matt, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I will try the Nick Chubb one.
All right, Nick Chubb, one of 5 players in NFL history with at least 8 rushing touchdowns in each of his first 5 seasons. Name one of the other 4. What has been guessed has been Thurman Thomas, Walter Payton, Terrell Davis. None of them have been correct because they're not one of the 4, but do you know what the answer is?
How about LaDainian Tomlinson?
LT is the nickname and initials that we were going for, but Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Emmitt Smith, and Jim Brown. So leisure, Matt?
What category would you like?
Barely there.
Barely?
Bear one.
That's all fine.
The bear one.
This bear was loosely referred to earlier on, but was not a correct answer. He has a passion for making sure the forest stays exactly where it's supposed to be.
Smokey the Bear?
Smokey the Bear! It's a layup
Nice.
towards the end of the segment, but you got it. And you can protect forest fires and fill your belly with $25 from Johnny's Tavern.
Matt, we'll put you on hold. Congratulations, sir. And let's wrap things up with Chris. Chris, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Let's go with sports.
Is that sports?
Yeah, sports.
All right, what category?
Let's do NFL.
NFL, okay. Thursday marked Jalen Hurts' 10th career game with multiple rushing touchdowns, including the playoffs. Only one player has more games in NFL history, with only one quarterback has more games in NFL history than Jalen Hurts' 10 with multiple rushing touchdowns. Who was that quarterback?
Can you say the first part of the question? I missed the
Yeah, no
first
problem.
part.
Thursday marked Jalen Hurts' 10th career game with multiple rushing touchdowns. Only one quarterback has more games in NFL history with multiple rushing touchdowns.
Multiple rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give me a clue, like what decade?
This decade-ish, yeah.
What's that?
Last, 10, 15 years of this decade.
Last 10 or 15 years?
Mm-hmm.
Is the quarterback playing right now?
No.
Oh.
Probably because he ran too much.
Multiple games.
Gotta take a quick shot.
Gotta take a shot. Come on, Chris.
Well, since they're not, you said they're not playing anymore?
Nope.
No, and neither are you in a second.
Come on. Yes.
Say a name.
I don't know.
Say a name.
Throw a name.
Say a name.
Say a name. Say a name.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Wasn't right. Damn it. The answer is Cam Newton.
Oh.
Cam Newton. And I think that's all the questions that I had out there. Any for you?
I don't think so. I think we're good. You want to do this tomorrow?
Sure.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Jeff Briggs with Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the Victory Effect. Our pledge to drive down vehicle pricing for this.